So thank you very much, Kari, for coming on to the show and lending us your expertise. And so start off however you want to about why this particular topic is important to you.
Okay. So the topic of out of hospital birth is important because um I mean, I know a lot of people have probably heard of Business of Being Born, but you could also go back to that just to give you kind of an idea of some of just the horrible things that are happening in terms of birth. Women are going in and they're not being heard. They're being forced into unnecessary practices. I mean, simple things that you may hear like you can't eat during labor. And the only reason why they say that is because back in the day, if a woman had a C-section, they put her all the way to sleep. So of course, no, you wouldn't want to eat because you wouldn't want to aspirate and die. However, they don't do that anymore. You're awake, so there's no reason for you, for no reason to just be hungry. So a lot of those practices, people aren't aware of why they are like that, and it completely robs women of their birth experience and what it can be. Birth trauma is a real thing. A lot of women have birth trauma and don't even realize it because they think it's normal. Just even the effects of what Pitocin can do to your body, the difference between the contractions that are natural versus those that are induced through medication. They don't feel the same and they don't do the same thing to your body or your baby. So really and mind you, my first two births were hospital births. So this is not just coming from the scope of someone who's only done it out of the hospital. I can compare. So the first two were hospital. My last was a out of hospital home birth, water birth, and this final baby will also be born at home.
Final baby.
final, final baby.
Hey,
Born at
nephew, final baby.
yes, it's the finale.
The cold game out here, okay? It's like
Born
it's
now.
like Hunger Games in the womb. Okay. Okay, look, talk more about that birthing experience. Talk about what the why a positive birthing experience is important and what that looks like because I think we've all seen the woman in the chair screaming, holding the bed, pushing and yelling. That's what I thought of. That and honestly, the Aaron Hall "I Miss You" music video is probably why it took me to over 30 to have kids. Okay, what is a positive birthing experience?
It's great that you say that because if
Oh,
you
I know I'm
ever
good at
go
this.
into care with a midwife and you're in labor and you make too much noise, they're going to tell you to pipe that down and save your energy. All of that is not called for. It is not necessary. It does nothing. They will tell you that. Cycle that energy and put it into concentrating on your body.
Right.
Even if you look at birthing videos on YouTube, you'll see out of hospital home birth women are calm. They're in control. You watch them in the hospital, they're completely out of control. They're screaming, they're yelling, get this MF baby out of me, so on and so forth. Completely different environments, and there's different reasons for that. So one of the biggest thing with a out of hospital, especially a home birth, is that you are in a comforting, familiar, safe environment and you call the shots. There's no one poking and prodding you. There's no one strapping things to you. There's no one telling you what to do. So, in my experience, when I went into labor, I was really in full blown labor by the time my midwife arrived, and she just kind of got in where she could fit in. You know, she used her Doppler to check the baby, she checked my blood pressure. She did not make me move from where I was to do these things. If I think I was on a birthing ball, like leaning over my bed, and she found her spot for herself in that space. She did not tell me to do this or do that. When I felt like I was ready to enter the water, and she checked the temperature first to make sure I would not charboil myself or the child. But I was able to get into the water. I can move myself however I wanted to. I could adjust myself if I wanted to get out. I could do whatever I wanted. The only time they will intervene is if it's for, some type of just necessary life-saving event. I would also like to add there's a misconception before I forget about the skills and the capability of a midwife. People think they are hippies that you find under like a bridge somewhere and they are not trained. They just kind of do give birth, and that's not true. My midwife in particular is a certified nurse midwife. So she went to nursing school. She is a mastered, prepared midwife. She has an advanced degree, and is able to deliver babies. So that's the only difference between her and a maternal or women's health nurse practitioner that you may see in a hospital.
Okay. Now you have a midwife,
Mhm.
you have a nurse practitioner, and then you have the OBGYN. So explain to the people who that is.
Okay, so OBGYNs are surgeons, okay, which is why the C-section rate is what it is. They are surgeons and they are also skilled to be able to identify problems in pregnancy. They are not experts in natural, healthy pregnancies. Midwives are, which is a lot of times when you go in there, they'll tell women all kind of stuff just because they're trained to see the worst, not to see normalcy. And if a lot of things that women don't know is when doctors are in medical school, you can ask a doctor that's been practicing for years. They'll be able to tell you they've never seen a natural birth occur from start to finish. There's always been some sort of intervention. The moment you walk into the hospital and someone puts an IV in your arm, they have intervened.
Hmm.
So there's a, their scope is completely different. They have to follow hospital protocol and practices. There are some things they are not allow you to freely do because of hospital protocol and practices. And a maternal fetal nurse practitioner or a women's health nurse practitioner, they usually work in clinics. They don't attend births, they cannot help you deliver a baby. They just stand in place for your doctor's appointments if your doctor is doing something else and we need to just check the baby's fetal heart rate and read your charts. That's what they do. Midwives are able to give you complete women's health care, okay, from pap smears all the way up to fertility counseling. They will help you through your pregnancy, postpartum. They see you postpartum frequently. They will make house calls if need be. There are some midwives who only make house calls. They don't even have a birth center. They only come to your house for checkups and everything. So they're able to give a full scope of maternity care. Now there's certified nurse midwives and there's direct entry midwives. And what those direct entry ones are is they're not nurses. However, they undergo 3-4 years of midwifery training, and then they have to be certified by the board. Their education is just as strenuous. The only difference is they're not a nurse.
Okay.
Only they're
Oh, well, now that's actually a lot of information. So we're gonna break that down. Let's talk about what a home birthing experience is like from start to finish. Like, so how you research to find a midwife, and then
okay.
what happens from there.
Okay, so the best thing to do usually, there's certain ways you can find a midwife. I will say Instagram is a really big one, because a lot of them it's a business, so a lot of them will promote there. You're able to see um, who they are through that, and then of course going to company midwives. There is a actual website, and I wish I had it right now, but I'll figure it out so you can always add it later.
Mhm.
Um, that really has all of the certified midwives or licensed midwives in your state, um, and around you and in your zip code, so you can go from there. Most midwives have something called Meet the Midwife, or they do interviews and where you can have them come to your house. You can go to their birthing center, and they pretty much explain everything that they do, what you can expect. If it's a practice that has more than one midwife, like mine is, you can meet all of them and choose which one you feel is just a better personality fit or knowledge fit for your
And we
practice.
have somebody in the chat who I think he's joking because he's like, I want to be a male midwife. But that's a good question. Do they have male midwives? I
You
mean,
can be you can be a male midwife. You can. They are not There's not that many of them for the same reason that there aren't that many male labor and delivery nurses.
but you have lots of male OBGYNs.
Exactly. So you can be a male midwife. Absolutely.
All right.
Um
So we're going out, we see the personality of these
yes,
midwives, we date them, we interview them,
right.
and
So
we're
then
looking at which credentials or what type of experience would make you feel comfortable with selecting.
to be honest, I think I was drawn to my midwife in particular, because of her knowledge. Because at the time of my last pregnancy, I was suffering from hyperemesis gravidarum, just a
Wait,
short
wait, say that again. You were suffering from
hyperemesis gravidarum, and which
hyperemesis gravidarum,
yes,
and that means that
it's extensive aggressive morning sickness,
Okay.
but life-threatening.
Well, I'm just saying because we have pregnant women who are watching this video who may
Mhm.
be thinking about home birthing as they're also trying to figure out how to stop barfing. You feel me?
Yes, my midwife is the person who cured that for me. Now, this was my third pregnancy that way. She was the only one who had answers. So during our meet the midwife, I brought that up to her, and she had so much knowledge for me in that 20 minutes that I had never attained from my OB in my previous two pregnancies where I suffered from the same thing. So that is why we chose her. Um, I did look at the credentials. There's some things I looked at. I looked at how many children they had themselves, because I feel like one of the perks of having a midwife is for you to, when you say you're going to feel some pressure, there's going to be some burning, that you
have
understand what that
experienced,
means.
you've
So, and
experienced it.
yes, and a lot of them had 5 children naturally.
Okay.
So,
We have a question in the chat. What is the difference between a doula and a midwife?
great question. Doulas are not able to deliver babies. They cannot help you deliver a child. They are not medically certified or legally allowed to birth a child, help you or catch babies. As a term is, they are there for emotional support. They are there to help you with coping techniques. They have wonderful coping techniques. So if you want one, I certainly, even if you don't have an out of hospital birth, they can really help advocate for you and help you stay in control of your birthing experience. Midwives are trained to do this. Midwives can catch babies. Midwives have life-saving techniques. They have medications. They can administer medications to you. They can do all of that. And sometimes midwives during the labor process are not able to give you full coping methods because their focus is to make sure the mother and the baby are safe. So they're handling the medical side. Doulas handle the emotional, physical coping side.
Say that one more time.
The whole
The doulas handle
the doulas
the
handle the emotional,
emotional side.
yes, the
The
emotional,
midwife
the
handles the medical.
coping, any type of pain management, which I think is completely subjective, but pain management aspect of it. And midwives handle the medical aspect in terms of checking hearts and making sure the mother is her blood pressure is stable, and that the baby is good, and checking you know fetal heart rates as well,
Right.
and making sure the mother isn't tearing or giving any sutures in the event there is a tear, things like that. So
Okay.
they handle the medical side.
So we're gonna dig deeper into that as well. This is a really in-depth video. Right now we have 29 people watching, which is awesome. But I'm just really excited about the thousands of women that I know that are gonna watch this video because I know women are going to share this video and really be appreciative of this information. I looked for it when I was pregnant and I got it from my sister. I did not get that information in all the research I was doing and all the Googling, all in one place that answers all the questions that a obvious nervous mom would be having, trying to make the right decision and hearing all these horror stories. When I was pregnant, everybody had a horror story.
Yep.
So you're offering solutions and how to find the solution. And then if are well informed, having a midwife is going to make you even more well informed. Going into the hospital, if you still decide to do that, you want to be informed still. So what I want you to do now, we have gone through the process. We have met and we have dated some midwives. We've picked out a midwife. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And April in the chat said she had midwives for both of her children. Okay, so you got some
No,
backup.
wonderful. The care is completely different.
Anne was born at home with a midwife. Okay, so look at that. Because her mom didn't like the non-consensual vaccines, and you see what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
So now
We
what?
can also discuss that too and how it's different. So
That's what I was
add
going
that
to
to the list.
Let's go through now. You've dated the different midwives. You've selected the one that is the best fit for you.
Yeah. So now we're coming into care.
Right.
So when you come into care, you can expect for your first appointment to last 2 hours. You will never have a midwife appointment that is less than an hour unless you have somewhere to be and you're like, can you wrap this up? They are not 15 minutes. And I'm not talking about an hour because you waited in a waiting room. No, an hour with your midwife.
And
They
while you're at it, because keep in mind, I'm sorry to cut you off. Keep in mind, the women who are listening have not some of these women have not had this experience yet. So they don't know that when you go to the doctor, you are being rushed out in 15 minutes.
Absolutely. So I'll go over what you can expect for both.
Thank you.
So say if you're going to an OB, my experience with my two daughters with an OB, I will go in, make my appointment. I would wait for forever. I would go in, I would see him for 15 minutes or less. It's, oh, congratulations, you're having a baby. This is your due date. Do you have any questions? Yay, bye. See you in 4 weeks. That is the appointment. Oh, and let's get some blood while you're here. The end. You check out with the chick in the front, and then they see you in 4 weeks. If you have questions, I had my first OB that I interviewed. She was like, "That wasn't that information in the pamphlet I gave you, ma'am. This is my first baby. Um, this what you get the checks for, and I'm asking you." Needless to say, I changed my OB that second. However, I mean, he wasn't as short, but when you compare it to a midwife who on my first appointment sat down with myself and my husband, and my other two children. She had a little corner in her office that had toys in it. It's a uh, midwives are a family friendly environment from appointments to birth. You do not have to find a babysitter for your kids for your midwife appointments. They want your kids a part of it. Your kids can listen to heartbeats on the Doppler. They can feel baby. They want them involved as much as you want them to be involved. It's up to you how little or how much they are a part of the experience. Um, and my kids are extremely birth woke. So, this first appointment, she sat down with myself and my husband. She asked about my birth history in detail. How many weeks I was, did I experience anything, did I have any medications during my births, any trouble. She also asked about my mother's birth history as well. How
Mm.
many weeks my mother was when she had me, how long she breastfed, if she had any troubles or issues. In our case, our mother also suffered from hyperemesis as well, so it's genetic. And that was a very important note for her to be able to take. Excuse me. So she also she also asked my husband questions because the aura of your husband has a lot in how your pregnancy goes. So he's just not an outsider, which I would like to say in our OB experiences, it was like, hey, it was like locker room talk. Hey, dude, another one, thumbs up, but they didn't ask me any questions. No one cared.
But with the midwife, the father is
He is a
included as
part
well.
of the experience from start to finish. He has a very important and integral role in the entire birthing process. He is allowed to catch his own baby. If he wants to, he can get in, as we call it, the placenta water. If you, if he wants to, if that's his thing, they are hands on. They ask him how he's feeling. So my midwife asked my husband how he was feeling. They also turn to, and I'll say partner because everyone's isn't whatever your situation is, so they will ask how you're doing, because sometimes you will downplay your own issues because you're used to them. So she will ask him, how is she really doing, how is um her blood pressure being managed, is she sicker than she's saying that she is she sleeping, is she eating like she should be eating, so on and so forth, because they understand that some people get white coat syndrome where you get in front of your care provider and all this and everything's all good. And so they're definitely a part of it. And again, it's 2 hours long. So in that, he also does an initial mental health assessment at your first appointment as well. So it's a questionnaire, asks you what your moods are, because antenatal depression is real. I had it during my pregnancy with my third daughter because my pregnancy was so tough and I felt trapped in my own body, like my body was betraying me. So that was something she made a point. And I also told her that our mother had depression and whatever is up with her. So that's something she said, okay, that's something we need to stay on top of because a lot of this stuff is genetic, even though mine was more so situational because of what I was dealing with. However, She was very proactive about it. So she kind of measured it. It gives you like a number, and it's something that she watches. And she would even text my husband every now and then, separate from myself, and say, how are Kari's moods? How is she doing with this and this? Do you think she needs to get outside more? Blah blah blah. Um, so that's very important. She would also answer any of my questions. One of the big ones was anything in your last birthing experience that you loved, anything that you did not like, anything that you want to be different. And this is all in the first appointment, okay? So a lot of women at this point may not know what to expect, especially if it's your first child. And she is there to answer questions. She has models so you can feel like what your baby feels like at 22 weeks and hold it and understand.
And you don't get any of that in the hospital.
That does not happen at a regular OB appointment.
I was so excited to go to that first appointment, and they treated me like I was a number.
Yeah, exactly.
And they lost my paperwork too.
And that happens too. That happens too. And it feels like an interrogation in the OB when they ask you about your history, and they try to argue with you about your own history. Because even with my first baby, they kept trying to give me my due date, and I was like, I don't ovulate on the 14th day like most women. And I told them I also don't have 28-day cycles. So if you're using that to get my due date, it's going to be wrong. Well, no. Like, how are you telling me about my body? Like, I know, like, I'm like, I don't have a 14th day luteal phase. For women who don't know what that is, it's the time between when you ovulate and when your period starts. Mine is short. Mine is like maybe 8 or 9 days.
Wait. And I'm sorry. I've become over the experience aware of who's watching. Mm-hmm. Some of these look, Vicky, this is why I need a DJ table to be able to just scratch back. Some of y'all don't know about a 14-day ovulation cycle or when you ovulate, and those things are very important. This is why people say, oh, oops, I'm pregnant, Rick. That young, especially the younger you are, the sooner. That's what y'all supposed to be in the class learning instead of trying to figure out how to change genders. But that's all another time.
And this is important because, and the reason why I'm going over this is because the OB likes to, if you hit 40 weeks and you haven't had your baby, they're trying to force the baby out, but your dates can be wrong. So based off of them, my due date should have been 2 weeks later than what it was. However, I knew my own body because I knew when I made the baby. And I know how, my cycle worked, that I knew that the dates were off. And this is also important because if it's your first baby and you do find out early and you go in for an ultrasound, they're not going to see anything. And they're going to tell you, oh, threatened miscarriage. When that's not the case. It's just too early for them to see anything. Because some shit is wrong.
Right.
So it's important for you to know that because they'll freak you out, scare you, have you thinking you're about to lose your baby. You're all excited. They didn't strip that away from you. Oh, well, your levels are this, and that. Midwives don't do that. Midwives will not even look at nothing until you're about 9 weeks, because even if the dates are off, they can still see something and then get an accurate understanding. Midwives also don't have due dates. They have guest dates because babies come whenever the hell they want to.
Right.
My first baby came on the due date that I knew she would come on because I knew when she was conceived to the day. So for me, it would have been 40 weeks to the day.
Well, let's not get too much into your conception.
No, it's not that. I'm just trying to hold on. Let me finish. There's a message.
I'm just kidding.
My second baby came at 38 weeks. This third baby came at 40 weeks and 5 days. If I would have been in the OB, they would have induced me. They would not have let me just wait until she came whenever she wanted to come. And so that's also a difference with midwives. Midwives will not force your baby out. They will not induce your baby. In my state, however, if I would have hit 42 weeks, then I would have risked out and had to have been induced just because that's the law. However, they weren't going to be like, ooh, girl, you're 40, time to have this baby. It doesn't work that way because they understand that these are just guest dates. And a little history for you, back in the day, they just had birth months. They didn't put a date on it. It was like, your baby's gonna be due this month, and that's all I can tell you. And they let nature take its course. And somehow we got out of that because men.
Okay, wait. So now this is the part where you have told me all these wonderful things. I feel so much more comfortable than I did before. I went and tried to go to the hospital, but they lost my paperwork and they treated me like a number. But midwife, everything, this is on point. Okay, but all this wonderful care that you're offering me is feeling real expensive.
Okay.
So how much is this gonna cost, ma'am?
So here's the thing. There's different ways. So midwives can range anywhere between $3,000 and $5,000. Okay, and this includes all of your prenatal visits. This includes your entire birth, no matter how long it takes. Some women labor for 36 hours. They're there the whole time. This also includes your postpartum care as well. Mind you, with an OB, you have a baby, they send you home. They say, I'll see you in 6 weeks. What's your birth control of choice, and they send you home. OBs, you have a baby, they come back and see you the next day, they come back and see you the day after that. And you can call them, text them, they're extremely available. You can text them any time of day or night, and if you need breastfeeding support, any of that, they will come back and help you with that as much as your heart desires up until your 6 weeks. And then at 6 weeks there, then they will release you from care. But I know for myself, I saw my midwife 8 times between the moment I gave birth and when I was released from care. Half of those visits were her coming to my house. One of those visits, she came at 1 o'clock in the morning because I just needed help with my latch. Um, Down some
You need
take
help with your lashes.
my latch, the latch.
Lash.
Yes. Now, there are some new developments on insurance payments. So some
What is a lash?
Oh, I'm sorry. The baby latching onto my breast to feed. I was having a difficult time with.
So that's part of that postpartum care you were talking
Yes,
about.
that's part of postpartum
Okay, so we're
care.
gonna get back to that. I'm sorry. I thought she came to help because your lash was falling off.
I'm sorry. I should have explained
You
more.
to clear it up for people.
Uh,
Okay, so the insurance part.
the insurance. So a lot of them are able to take insurance. Cigna recently, in the last, I want to say 60 days or so, has approved that they will cover midwifery and labor support care. So they will now cover midwives. They will now cover home births. They will now also cover doula services as well. It was
Ooh.
not like that before. So Cigna is definitely one of them that's turning the corner because they're seeing an increase. Midwives usually also know how to finesse their insurance companies if need be. Okay. They'll tell you how to submit it, the exact wording you need in order to get approved. They also know how to tell you, they also know how to have you challenge it if it's denied. And usually it gets approved anyway, if you want to go the insurance route. The cash option is also there. And of course, you're paying throughout the course of your pregnancy. So it's not just some big thing.
Who
Um,
helps you if you're denied? The midwife helps you if you're denied?
if you're denied, the midwife will show you how to get it, how to appeal
Yeah,
it and
well,
get it approved.
what?
Yes, they'll help you do that because they've been doing this usually for a long time, and they know people like to play. Um, Now, if you just a comparison, because sometimes people are like $3,000 to $5,000, like, oh, that's a lot. However, if you have a baby in the hospital, even if you have insurance, your bill is still gonna look significantly worse than that.
Mm-hmm.
Significantly. I think our bill after our first baby was like $8,000, something like that. And the stuff they were charging for was just absolutely ridiculous. Like,
They charge me for skin to skin.
yeah, they will charge for skin to skin. They will charge you to hold your own baby close to your heart. They will charge you for that. If they give you Tylenol, all of a sudden, 339, $3, and 29 cent Tylenol is now $250.
Oh no.
So those are also things to consider, and you get more bang for your buck. But there's definitely ways to um, pay for it. And there are midwives who also, if you are on Medicaid, they either provide discounts or they will take Medicaid depending on your state. So that's also something to consider as well. If you feel like, oh, this is, there's this misconception that home births and out of hospital births are for the elite, and it's not. Um, there's different ways to fund it, and they will offer you support on doing so. Hold on. Yes, baby. Your sister took your Ninja Turtle.
Oh yeah, skin to skin.
Did you ask her
Oh,
nicely if she can give it back? Okay, well, that's your sister, baby. You go figure it out, okay? Because when it was my sister, I had to figure it out. Go, well, you know how mommy feels about that, okay? Somebody hit you, you hit them back. Sisters included. Get your, try to use your words first. And I mean,
Wait, which kid is you talking to? Was that the big one or the little
that's the middle
one?
one. Yes, that's Crenshaw's. Take it back to Crenshaw. Tell her to get her life together. Tell Crenshaw to keep her hair on herself. And tell your sister to keep her hands. So, hey, sweetheart, can you close mommy's door, please?
Yeah,
Thank
child, her hands
you.
she can't be fighting nobody.
That's why she don't want to hit her sister back. She's like, mommy, I'm not. That's her way of saying I don't want to hurt her. I have a kickboxing child, in case you were wondering. Okay. But yes, so no matter if you have Medicaid, if you have private insurance, if you pay out of pocket, you definitely have options in terms of care, and your midwife will walk you through the financials and making sure you can get as much paid for by somebody else before utilizing your own money.
All right. And if you guys have questions, please put them in the chat. We are live. It's Kiki Green with my biological real sister, Kari, and she is an expert with the hospital systems as well as childbirthing because she's getting ready to do it for the fourth time, and she has had it in the hospital. She has had a baby at home. We're gonna get to that detail. So you had a baby on a plane in the car too, or just at home and in the hospital?
At home, because I know not to get in the car. My legs move fast.
Okay, so she is definitely an expert on both aspects. So that's why she was able to give y'all the lowdown and the skinny about the financial parts. Excellent. So if you guys have questions, jump in. Okay, so now I've decided I'm going to go with you, midwife, because this is significantly, in the long run, less expensive than what I was going to do with these people over here. And you're going to take my insurance. My husband's excited about it. He's learned more than he ever wanted to know about women. Okay, he's all into it. I've got my Erica Badu CDs and everything. I got me some incense and everything. I'm ready to go. What is that experience like from after that initial interview till birthing? How do you prepare?
Your midwife is going to educate you on childbirth.
And
And
I'm sorry, let me jump in. The question is here from new mom is: are monthly ultrasounds really necessary or just an upcharge?
it's an upcharge. It's not necessary. In fact, there is some research that indicates that it may be harmful to consistently have ultrasounds if, for any reason, it's not medically necessary. For some people, in cases of multiple, in cases of someone who may have any type of pregnancy related illness, um, they may need it for whatever reason. But if you're having a normal, quote unquote, normal, natural pregnancy that's not causing you any complications, you don't. Midwives usually only will do a dating scan initially, and then they'll, of course, do the 20-week anatomy scan because they want to make sure the baby is healthy for them to be able to safely deliver outside of the hospital as well. Usually, after that, they will not do another ultrasound unless you go, quote unquote, overdue. And so they just do their due diligence to make sure there's enough amniotic fluid, that the placenta is still healthy enough for you to continue on with your pregnancy without any type of intervention at that point. Other than that, midwives usually will not.
Okay. So, what are some of the other differences between going to the hospital leading up into as opposed to with your midwife? And while you're at it, throw in the other question in the chat from Savvy talking about pain management.
Okay. So that's something that your midwife will discuss with you as well during the process. It's mental. It's honestly mental. I think one of the biggest things is that that really helped me, even with my hospital births in there, is that I've never been afraid of labor. I think that we hear so many horror stories that it creates this tension. And what happens is, and midwives will explain this leading up to your delivery, is that um, when you are afraid, now you have fight or flight. You have adrenaline. Adrenaline is not what you want during uh during childbirth. It's the opposite, because adrenaline blocks the natural hormones that help you with birthing, with breastfeeding, all of that good stuff. So it blocks your dopamine, that helps you bond. It blocks your well, it stops pain. It blocks your oxytocin, which helps you bond and helps your contractions. So all of that stuff is kind of being weeded out, and so now you're in fight or flight, and you don't want that. Um, when you are not afraid, and usually midwives leading up, again, they're going to have these conversations with you about what makes you comfortable. They're going to make sure that you're knowledgeable on what the body does, and we can go in more in depth to that as we get closer to the birth, what happens during birth part. But they're going to talk, they're going to make sure that you are properly educated. They have libraries usually where you can rent out books about childbirth. I highly recommend a book by Ida Mae Gaskin. She is the godmother of midwifery, and
Say her name again.
her name is Ina Mae Gaskins. Her book is called the Guide to Childbirth, and it really goes into, it talks about natural childbirthing, from beginning to end, and really the anatomy that
Item
goes into that.
Gaskin. Are you saying Gastin?
uh Gaskins, Gaskins,
Or
sorry.
Gaskin? And you know somebody named Ida Mae, that's one of them old names. So you know she knows
Yes, Ina Mae.
everything.
What's wrong, big girl? Your sister hit you back, or she took the Ninja Turtle? Did you ask her for it properly? Did you really? Well, why don't you suggest that you guys share? But you know how, if, hey, look at me, look at me. Some things are sacred. If your sister don't want to share, you have to respect that that's something she may not want to share. You have 70 million toys
I
that
mentally
belong to
tried
you.
and couldn't do it. I literally came close and chickened
Okay,
out. Kudos to the natural birth warriors. Did you decide to get
go ahead, baby.
you talking about the shot epidural?
There's nothing wrong with that. I think there's this misconception as well that women feel like if they choose to get epidural, and I want to make sure that you understand my stance on this. I don't think there's a wrong way to birth your baby. Some women feel like they need the epidural, and I've had one. I've had one. And by all means, do your thing. You have not failed. You are not less than. Your plan has not gone astray just because you've done it. And I feel like that contributes to a lot of fear and pressure that women have, is that if they plan this natural way and then, well, and I use natural loosely at that, then all of a sudden now your birth experience is tarnished and you failed, and that's not true. Everybody's experience and tolerance is different. Sometimes women have been in labor for a long time and they're tired, just tired. Like, damn it, I'm tired. You
And
need a nap.
being pregnant is already stressful as it is, and
Yes.
you're trying to imagine what it's like to be a mother, and you feel like the first thing you're doing as a mother is giving birth, and somehow if you don't start that off right, the whole thing is start off wrong. Even with when it comes down to breastfeeding, like, well, if I don't breastfeed, that's what I thought. Like, if I don't breastfeed my baby, she's not gonna be smart. She's not gonna have, well, you know what I'm saying? There's that pressure, and it's like what I have realized in the 2 years I have been a mother is that you have plenty of opportunities to make good
Yes.
decisions.
Plenty. And it's
Every
okay.
day is full of
Yes. And your child is not going to grow up and be mad at you because you didn't breastfeed or because you had an epidural, none of that. And I will say the only difference is when you're in a hospital, I will say they try to push it on you.
yeah.
They don't give you the narrative that you can do this. They also don't give you, it's not an environment, honestly. Like, if I had to have another baby in a hospital, I would probably end up with an epidural, even after having a natural birth at home, because the environment is not conducive for me to relax in the way that I need
Right.
to be able to comfortably cope and soothe and get through the surges. Honestly, it's just not the environment for that. And some women are able to do it. I don't know how. So I would not knock myself about that if I were you, because it's just not the environment. It's just not. Soon
Okay.
as you look like you squinting, they trying to offer to you on a hot cocktail.
Lisa said my epidural was the best thing ever, and I praise whoever invented them.
Yeah, it is. Unfortunately, they don't sell it in the stores, but yeah, and everybody's pain tolerance is different. The positions that you're in the hospital are not conducive um, to you not experiencing contractions that are worse. Not to mention hospitals. The reason why women that have babies in hospitals end up with epidurals the most is because they're giving you pitocin the moment you check in. People don't even know what pill they tell you. They say it's oxytocin. It's not. Oxytocin is natural. If it's man made in the lab, it's not. No woman that is being given pitocin can probably handle pitocin contractions. They don't feel like normal contractions. That's why you probably feel like you want an epidural is the best thing ever, is because they blows you up. Your body's not doing what it's supposed to do naturally. As soon as they put that IV fluid in, they squeeze in something, and they say it real casual. So we're just gonna go ahead and give you some pitocin to keep your labor steady, and you just like, okay. But now the difference is, and when we're jumping ahead of the line, but while we're here, pitocin contractions
Yeah,
cause,
he was induced.
yes, and that's why, sweetheart, because in induction contractions and natural contractions, they feel nothing alike at all whatsoever. Pitocin contractions are stronger than natural contractions. They last longer, and they come quicker. So now they're rolling into each other, and it's like your labor pain is not supposed to be consistent. Natural contractions, you have a gradual rise and then a fall, and then there's nothing in between your contractions. You should feel no pain. You feel nothing. You good. You can. I was dancing in between contractions because I was good. And as they get closer, even when you're at laboring, they come. I think the closest mine came even at the point of pushing, and even then I really breathed the baby out. It was 30 seconds, and I had a full 30-second break. Like I felt nothing. There was no pain. There was no aching. Nothing. Contraction rose. It fell.
So they're supposed to be real contractions. It's not supposed to be.
It's not supposed to be this. This is what's happening.
Constant pain.
And then they're like this, and then like this constantly. You can't even catch your breath. It's not even safe for the baby because the baby can. Your body is naturally made to do it in paces so that the baby can also regulate their blood pressure, and be able to adjust themselves. The best way that it's been described with pitocin is like letting your baby up for air but not letting them breathe. So that's why you see a lot of stuff like, oh, the heart rate is dropping now because you didn't gave them some shit they ain't supposed to have. Right. My body is not doing what it's supposed to do. It's tired, it's overworking, it's going against nature. So that's a lot of reason why women in hospitals, if they started saying no, I don't need pitocin, leave me alone. Either they will get the epidurals later when they just really naturally feel like they want it and not so early on, or they may be like, oh, it's not even that bad, I could do it.
And this is all coming from them forcing a due date on you in the first place.
Yes, and even if you don't, even my baby who was 38 weeks, who was ahead of her due date, when I got into the hospital, I was already 7 centimeters dilated. And we'll talk about that the cervical checks, because midwives don't do that unless you ask them to. But and I was progressing perfectly fine. They insisted that I have pitocin. There was no reason for me to have pitocin. I had just got there. Technically, you got 14 hours to have your baby before they start trying to cut it out.
Because they're trying to upsell you and they're trying to make money. And I don't.
Yes, and it's like I don't need it. I didn't need it.
You mentioned the business of hospitals, and I don't want to even get too deep into that, because it gets real dark and bleak. And the purpose of this is we want to make people feel better about.
Yes, and I don't want to scare women.
Not get upset regardless to which decision it is that you're making. Let's see. Ada Riches says, I'm learning so much about the real OB experience now than I did on my actual OB/GYN rotation as a medical student. Well, that's good.
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about what is, when you explain and describe to me what that natural childbirth was like. I had never heard anybody explain it in such a pleasant way before. I knew it was possible because I had seen this bush woman on YouTube go have this baby, wrap it up in leaves, and then she kept the umbilical cord attached. So I figured she had just like left her scissors in the house, or I didn't know she was going to use a rock or what that was, but the video cut off. But what I'm saying is I knew it was possible because I'm like, how come this woman in the bush is not out here screaming and crying and being held strapped to a bed, cussing her husband out, talking about, you did this to me. And according to you people, she's supposed to be malnourished without medical. She ain't been to no prenatal appointments, but she's not living in agony. And then we have such problems. Every woman here in America with all this high tech stuff is having all these issues. And the answer became very clear once you explained to me what the experience was and how your body is doing the work. Go figure. The same body that created the baby actually kind of knows what to do. So you've gone through these appointments. You have a birthing plan put together. If you want to add any more details to that, please do. And then for us, what happens when you go into labor, and just what your experience was giving birth at home?
Okay, so before you actually go into labor, you with your midwife, you will have something called a birth planning meeting. At this point, this is where they ask you what you want because unlike OBs, they don't wait until you are in labor to start questioning you about shit that you want to do. Okay.
Right.
So there's a questionnaire and I wish I had it with me, but it asked me things like who all do I want to be there? Do I want my children to be there? Do I want my children to only be there up until a certain point? Who I want to cut the cord. My oldest daughter at the time, who was 4, cut the cord. They asked who I wanted to catch the baby, be it myself, my husband, the midwife, whoever felt like it at the moment. They asked if I wanted a mirror so that I could see. They asked if when I started to crown, if I wanted to touch the baby. They asked if I wanted photography, if I wanted video, if I wanted music. They just asked all of these questions. What kind of snacks do I prefer for labor? What's my preferred drink? Um, just if I wanted to have a land birth and midwifery talk is basically outside of the birthing pool. So on the bed, on the floor, just outside of the water. I prefer to have a water birth. I wanted to try that experience. They also ask you about what you want after the birth. They just really kind of go over everything about your setting and what room you want to have. And if you're having a baby at home, they're going to do a home visit. So this not their first when you're in labor, there's not their first time coming to your house and figure out how to get around it. So they'll do a home visit. Like mine did. We selected a room. I wanted my bedroom. I selected my bedroom because I had my grandparents in town, so I wanted to be able to close the door. Some people do their living room. Some people have their babies in the room that will be assigned to their baby, just to kind of keep the mental going. So you just can do it anywhere. They instructed my husband how to connect they dropped off the pool. Our midwife brings the supplies as a part of the package. So she brought the pool liner that you put in for sanitation purposes. Of course, you're not just having your baby in a bare pool that somebody else just did it. There's a liner to protect, of course. So she brought all of that information in a big box. She showed him how to put the hose onto the shower head so that the water can go in there so that he's not waiting until she arrives to fill up the pool if need be. Um,
Which
they,
is
they
good
showed
too,
us,
to give him a task too. He's a
yes, he had a job. They
see?
also showed him how to set up the pump to drain it, even though that's something that the midwives do. They will drain the pool. That's a really big question people ask. If you have a pool, how does the water get out? Midwives will handle it. They'll do that for you. They pump it out. They're not trying to carry out a pool of water and listen to juice. Um, so that's everything that happens in your pre-birth planning, and from there you wait.
No.
Um, and
Now,
then once
and how many appointments is this?
they keep the same schedule as you see an OB. So in your first,
But they're coming to you though, instead of you going to them, which is
if
awesome.
you choose, so we go to our appointments at their birthing center, which is like an office. Their office that they work out of. They also have 2 birthing rooms that they have for women who choose to have their baby there at the birthing center. You don't have to have it at home. I have a friend whose midwife comes to them for all of their checkups and appointments. So all of them function differently. However, if I had an emergency, when I had like hyperemesis, if I could not move, if I was too dehydrated, then she's just going to come to me because obviously I'm not in any shape to try to get to her. So that option is available as well. Or if I have an emergency. And I also want to add that midwives are available to you in ways that OBs are not. I text my back. I had really bad sciatic nerve pain yesterday too. I could not function. I text my midwife and we got it taken care of. I can text her, call her any day or time. She is available to respond. She's very efficient. She's on the dime. I don't have to go looking for her. I don't have to wait for her to call me back. I don't have to come in every time I have an issue. And they have solutions for everything. I mean, some women even have like during I know I do. Second trimester, some of you may have experienced like you might get leg cramps in your sleep. She had a solution for it. Like there's a solution for everything. And that where you don't really see with obese. Okay, so back on track. So once I went into labor, um, I called her and said, "Okay, I think this might be it." Because I had a few false alarms in which she had to come to my house in the middle of the night for no reason because there was no baby. But she didn't trip. That's her job. So I let her know, okay, I think this is a real thing. And she was like, you want me to come now? And I was like, I was kind of still in disbelief. She was like, I'm going to come now. Just based off the way you sound, I think it's a good move. She
Uh-huh.
just walked in the house because you don't want to lock the door because you need to be able to do her thing and get in whenever need be. So by time, you know, she arrived, I was already laboring. My contractions were coming maybe 2.5 minutes apart. My husband was there for support, so he's excited. The littles were running around somewhere. Um, when
Good.
she arrived, my midwife came and she checked the fetal heart rate, she checked my blood pressure, and she had an assistant with her. That's the other thing. Midwives will not come alone; they will have an
Okay.
assistant because one, they need somebody there to care for the baby and to care for you after, and it's also just a good backup in case there is an emergency. And we'll talk about their emergency procedures after, because that's a very big concern that people usually have. Um, so they kind of just watched me. They let me do my thing. I had my music on. I had my little Sade and my Erica Badu on my playlist. Um, and I just got, when I was ready to, I got in the water. I rocked in the water. I was on hands and knees. That was my preferred position. My husband was in front of me, kind of coaching me, telling me I was doing great. He was giving me granola bars because I was hungry. They made sure I stayed hydrated. So they were constantly passing me my Powerade, just so as I got through it. They didn't ask me any questions. Like if I was talking to them, then they'll talk back to me. They used their tones were low the entire time. There was no shouting. There was none of that. They was just relaxing. Um, if they needed to ask me a question, they would. But if I seemed like I wanted to be left alone, they left me alone. I want to say midwives are very good at reading body language. They've seen a lot of
Mhm.
births. They don't need to stick their hand up your vagina to know where you are. Okay, that's another thing that's very important. So a midwife will never do a cervical check without consent. And if you say no, they will not do it. They don't just be like, okay, that's what you need to do. Open up, stick legs up. It's time. They will never do that at any point. Especially during labor, there's this misconception, especially in OBs, they constantly have to check your cervix. That puts you at risk for a lot of infections, especially if your water has already broken.
And also talk about the privacy and the sensitivity to certain women in terms of them, having the
Yes.
sensitivity being touched.
So a lot of, and there are a lot of women who have various traumas from just life, who may be sexual abuse victims or may just have some sort of trauma with just not really being comfortable with people touching them, especially without consent and especially in their vagina. So they're conscious of that, which is why they will not do these things without consent, and they will respect you. And if they don't have to, they will not. So my midwife was able to tell where I was in terms of dilation just by looking at me and reading my body, by noticing how fast my contractions were coming, by how hard I may or may not have been breathing, or once my contractions got to the point where I could not talk through them, and so I would get quiet, or when I started to get a little bit more aggressive with my husband. um, and not even like yelling at him or anything, but if I like was squeezing him a little tighter, and my thing to him was make sure I keep my hands relaxed, because one thing that they teach you, midwives teach you, if your hands are relaxed, the rest of your body is relaxed, and you need your body to relax. So a lot of it is quiet enough and calm enough for you to be able to get into a zone and realize you and your baby are working together. And once you do that, um, it's just easy. I personally don't consider birth painful. I consider it's intense. It is intense. If your body's doing it naturally, it can be real. It can be intense because it's working. It can be tiring. You could bust a sweat. Um, and so that's something you can just kind of
Okay.
expect in life.
There's a question in here. First of all, Lisa says she had 5 medical students watching her first birth. Please tell us how you ended up in that situation. And then Just the D wants to know, are midwives able to tell if something is wrong with the baby?
Absolutely. Yes, they can tell. And there's an emergency procedure for all of that good stuff. They can tell if the heart rate drops because they're still checking. Even if you don't even realize they're there, they're constantly checking fetal heart rates. My midwife has a doctor, an OB that she works with, and most of them do. in case of emergency. There's the local EMS is always alerted if there's a home birth around, so that if in the event of emergency they can do something. They have resuscitation devices. They have hemorrhage medication to stop hemorrhaging as well. So they have all of this stuff, and a emergency plan prior to labor in the event that it is needed. And they will not just have you have a baby at home just for the hell of it. No, um, they will make sure that if there are any red flags and you need to be risked out, they will risk you out, because at that point you are no longer eligible for midwifery care.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and they can lose their license, and they don't want to do that, so they're really on top of it. But yes, they can always tell, even with, so as my
Can
baby
you
was,
give me a stat? Is there some statistics on the success of uh, home
yes,
birthing rates versus hospitals?
yes, and I don't remember all of them off the top of my head. I know, but I do know that home births have a 2% C-section rate in comparison to the ridiculous one that hospitals have. And I'll provide you with some of that, so in case you want to share with your followers, they can come back
Yes.
and look at the literature on it. But there's definitely some knowledge available on that information.
Okay.
um so yeah, as I was going through that process, I knew that I could feel you're also very in tune about where your body is, because the contractions are in, or they feel like it's something with a purpose. It's not just pain. It's like you could tell what's happening. You could feel your baby moving down. So for me, the most painful part of labor was the crowning
Is the painful part?
stages.
Okay, wait. Now pause for 1 second. Lisa says that they came in the room with all of them and asked her if it was okay, and she was young and afraid to speak up, so she just said yes.
And I think that's common. And 5 people. So okay, I like that she brought that up. Um, as I mentioned before, I went 5 days overdue. And when I met with my midwife right before I went to labor, she asked my husband first. She said she has anxiety about something. She's not calm. She's not relaxed. What is it? She said, because if you are uncomfortable, your body is going to be like, ooh, not time to have this
More
baby yet.
tense, and it's going to make it more difficult to
Yes,
have.
every animal on the planet goes away to have a baby. Only people like to have like 20 people. Oh, we had a
I was
cousin that had
watching the
10
Discovery
people.
Channel the other day, and then after the elephant had her baby, then they was having to wear. And I was like, "Why did you go off by yourself to have the baby elephant?" And now the lions is trying to get you, and now you and the baby elephant got to get back. But they made it back though.
Oh, they'll make it back. That much elephants. Just listen, they good. So, um, yeah, trying to have a relax, and you have that many people in your room staring up, into your cervical cavity. That's not necessarily a comfortable situation, and midwives know that. So they try to also encourage you to keep as little people around you as
That's
possible.
possible. And
Just because
I mean, it sounds like the
we're
hospital.
animals. We're animals.
It sounds like the hospital is doing the complete opposite of everything that it is that you need them to do.
Yes. Yes.
And it makes more money for them, and it's putting your life on the line and giving a horrible experience, and reducing the population because you don't want to go back and have no more kids. Where actually you probably, it's a bad business model, because if you have way more babies being made in the hospital, if people thought they could make it out alive.
That's true. And I want to say this. My first two that were born in a hospital, I didn't have bad experiences. Well, I didn't think I did, because it was all I knew. And as far as hospital births were concerned, it was about as good as they could be. It wasn't until I got with a midwife and I was like, I've been being swindled. I wish every woman, regardless if they had a baby in the hospital or out, had this experience. I wish they had this care. I wish they had somebody who cared like this, who was attentive like this, who listened to them in this way. And unfortunately, we're not there yet in America, to where no matter how you have your baby, because everyone can't have their baby out of the hospital, or they don't have supportive spouses who will, allow it or advocate for it, or they don't, they just, it's their first baby and they're just don't know what to expect. And regardless of what you do, you should have this care. We're just not there, unfortunately. So once the baby was born, she gave the baby to me. Baby was on my chest, and then we allowed the cord blood to pump into the baby in full. That's important. This
The umbilical cord blood. We're talking.
yes, umbilical cord blood. When you're in the hospital, they cut that sucker right away. 15 to 20% of your baby's blood volume is in the placenta. When you cut it, they don't get that. Of my 3 children, my most recent, who was allowed to have all of her blood into her body, she had the most color. She was the most alert. She breastfed the best. She's my strongest kid. And people think a lot of this stuff has to do, like, intelligence and strength and all that has to do with breastfeeding. I honestly has a lot. I think it has a lot to do with you getting all of your blood and iron at birth. She just started walking at 9 months. She was holding her head up from the gate. She was holding her bottle before she was a month old.
So let's recap that for the listeners. I mean, this is really impactful stuff. You're used to this information. So you're saying here that in the hospital, the umbilical cord is immediately cut.
Yep.
And
you have
that
to push the issue to not have it cut immediately. And even then, I think they said you get 30 seconds or something they may give you. It's crazy.
And it's to the hospital's benefit
they keep it.
To keep the placenta. And when women ask to keep their placenta, what are some reasons women may want to keep that placenta? Get into that placenta. Let's not let that pause, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, some people are weirded out by the placenta because it's not the most beautiful thing you may have ever seen, depending on your perception. There's different things about it. There is belief that if a woman were to encapsulate and ingest her placenta, it would help her with postpartum depression. I kind of drew the line there. Although there's a misconception that it's because somebody has a baby at home, they're quote unquote crunchy mom. I'm not that crunchy. I didn't try that, but I hear a lot of women actually have positive results from that in terms of their adjustment from childbirth. So a lot of women want their placenta so they can encapsulate it and ingest it to just help them recover. Some women want their placenta because it's theirs, and some.
Now, is the placenta still good to encapsulate if you allow it to fully drain before the cord is cut?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Because there's just so many properties in there. So although mine had been drained, they took it and they investigated just like they do in the hospital, make sure all parts are there so that nothing's still stuck inside. That's what happened with Kim Kardashian, as an example, why she can't carry anymore. There was some placenta that was left in her uterus. She got a really bad infection, and now it's difficult for her to carry naturally. So, that's why she has surrogates, in case anybody did not know why.
So new mom, taking in all this information, just told her husband, "Can we have our baby at home?" And he said, "Hell no." And that's the same response that I got from my husband. And that's the reason also why we're doing this. And maybe you can get him to listen in on certain parts, especially the part where she was talking about, your safety, the comfort, being at home, how much more he'll be involved. To be quite honest with you, I know my husband's probably watching. If he isn't, he'll watch it. And I'm going to see if he was able to come around some. But he's like, no. And I'm like, okay, we ain't getting no kids then because I ain't going back. I'm not going back in there.
Well, even on that, at the time that I chose to do a home birth, I was really sick. I wasn't getting help. It was to the point where my husband was cussing people out because they were not listening to me. So he was at a point where if it will help you, baby, you can have this baby in the woods somewhere. I don't even give a damn. But
Leo says, tell him it's gonna save him some money. Good point.
It's gonna save some money.
They're telling you how to work the man brain.
Yes. Not to mention, if you find a midwife and you schedule a meeting or you go to meet midwife and you take your husband, his mind will change. Let them do the work. Midwives even recommend that. They say, if you have anybody who is not supportive of this, please bring them to talk to us because we can answer questions and bring them a different level of comfort with it. Because again, there's just a lot of misconceptions.
And when they go into the actual office and see that this is a business professional, a medical professional,
yeah,
they're thinking Erykah Badu at the last Soul Train Awards.
They are. Yeah, a lot of people think that.
They're thinking Madagascar. That's what they're thinking.
Yeah, and a lot of people think that, home birth is a trend. Actually, hospital birth is a trend. People were not having their babies in the hospital until maybe the late 40s if you're not Black. And then if you're Black, you weren't born in the hospital. They weren't having babies in the hospital.
But you weren't allowed to go in there. They did allow
50s.
And then when they did allow Black people to have babies in the hospital, just like Envy Me Greatly mentioned, one of the moderators mentioned right here in the chat, there are places where the Black babies disappeared at the hospital and they never made it home and wasn't nothing even wrong with them.
Exactly. So if you're Black, in our family, our father was the first generation born in the hospital. Our grandmother was born at home. I think for people who are not Black, as in, and I would say for people who are not of color. So if you're white, then you probably have 2 generations born in the hospital. If you're around, like if you're currently in the 30, 35 range, your mom and your grandmother were probably born in a hospital, but not for us. Ours don't go back that far. We wasn't allowed in there. So that's just it's something to consider, especially when you're trying to really convince someone. Like, people have been having babies for a very long time and using midwives, which is why they're knowledgeable in more things, because they've been exposed to more things and they have a lot of tips and tricks that they've passed through just their knowledge base.
I think the other part too that people are missing, especially the men, a lot of the challenges that people are facing in the emergency room with these babies are caused by the hospital in the first place. Mm-hmm. Without you going to the OBGYN in the first place, you never have those issues. Someone else asked about breech babies. I did not forget about you. Talk about a breaching situation, how the hospitals handle that versus how a midwife will handle that.
Okay. Breech babies, hospitals will not deliver. Period. And that's not even so much because it's dangerous so much as it is that they're not trained to do it. They're not trained to do it. I think in my hospital, we were actually talking about this. I actually work in a hospital as well. So in my hospital, I think we have one physician who is trained to do breech birth. And the last time he did a breech birth, he said it was 20 years ago. So he ain't not even rocking with it like that. The only time they're even remotely comfortable is in cases where it's a twin birth and it's vaginal, because usually the breech baby comes second and the vaginal cavity has already been stretched to acclimate the first baby, so you have more room to manipulate if need to, and they feel more comfortable doing it that way. Other than that, breech baby, if you can't turn it, usually they want you to do it by hand, which is extremely dangerous and painful, so I hear. Then off to the C-section you go. And if you are a woman who has a baby that is breech, I definitely recommend that you look up something called spinning babies. They have little techniques that you use, and just doing something called inversions, where you're just basically have your knees on the couch and your arms on the floor, will help spin your baby. If you have any, they also help if your baby is like on your pelvis and it's painful, it helps move the baby into a favorable position. So definitely look into spinning babies if you are ever concerned about a breech baby needing it to turn. It actually has a really high success rate, and that's what most, if probably all midwives will recommend for their patients in the cases of breech. Now, in terms of midwives, in most states, now their ability to deliver breech depends on their state. In my state, my midwives can deliver multiples. They can also deliver a breech baby. And there's a special technique to that, which is allowing the baby to use its own weight to deliver itself without pulling. And there's techniques to use to avoid the head getting stuck. The only reason why people are afraid of breech is because they're worried about the head being stuck in the pelvis. There are techniques that midwives know in order to do that, because they've been doing this for a long time.
And so once again, people are concerned with going to a midwife, thinking that the hospital, the white coat, the machines have all the answers, when for example, one of our cousins the baby was upside down, and keep in mind, and she was hungry, and they told her she couldn't eat. And just instinctually, she was like, my baby is hungry. She will get in a place. I need a burger. You know what I'm saying? So her mother had to sneak her in a double Whopper with cheese. And she said after she had her full combo, then she relaxed, the baby relaxed, and they were able to deliver anyway. So what I'm saying is, all the things that you are thinking of why you shouldn't, what could go wrong as a reason why you shouldn't go to a midwife, those things are less likely to happen midwife to begin with. And then even when they do, believe me, the midwife does not know. Like she was saying, the midwife would rather, if you have to have a C-section or some type of surgery or something like that, they are going to, the midwife has more at stake and is more invested in you and your baby survival
Mm-hmm.
than the hospital does. The midwife is not going to just go to lunch and say, oh, well, oops.
Mm-hmm. Your midwife becomes a part of your family. Whenever we go see her, she hugs all of my children. She tells them she loves them, and she does. She asks about them. They're just really, they're special to her, especially the baby that she delivered. She's like, the baby, the one that she delivered is like she knows her. Like whenever we go into the midwifery appointments and she's there, she just likes it. She sees her. She remembers her. She remembers her voice because she heard it she heard it a whole lot. Um, and so I think we got off track about what happens after at the birth, well, after the baby is born, which is
During the birth, so we went through the natural contractions.
yeah. So the baby's born now. Oh
We've
yes,
already cut the umbilical
yes,
cord.
and the cord blood has pumped. So now, once it's pumped, you cut the cord. From there, the midwife will start to clean up, and they are going to leave you and your family alone for an hour. They're not about to start testing your baby and measuring it and giving it the weight right away. It's called the golden hour, and during that hour, they will not strip you from your baby for nothing, unless your baby is having difficulties, huh?
I didn't even see her till the next day.
Yeah, if your baby's not having any type of difficulties with breathing or something, like their color is good, they're going to clean up, they're going to step away, and they're going to allow the family to bond. They're going to allow you to bond with your child. So a lot of people I was sitting like, hey, the baby's here. They're like, how much, what's the weight? I'm like, I don't know. We didn't get there yet. we're not there. I don't know. And at that time, my children came in. They got to see their baby sister, and they got to give her cuddles, and we got to stare at her. And
one of them even cut the umbilical cord, right?
Huh? Well, the umbilical cord was cut by then. We cut the umbilical cord once all the blood was pumped out of it. My oldest daughter cut the cord. Yeah. She was 4. She cut the cord, and she still talks about it to this day. It was just her highlight of her life, and she's just super important.
Well, look how cool that is, and how much more comfortable, and how that's in how look at how that informs her.
My 4-year-old thinks she's going to grow up and have 12 children. She thinks that she's going to have them all at home, and that the same midwife is going to deliver all 12 of these children. She also said, I'm going to watch them because she got to go to work. But she, in her mind, that's where babies are born. So we had a friend who had their baby at the hospital, normal. She's just like, why is she going to the hospital to have her baby? She didn't understand, like, why would she go there? Why? So they're aware. Leading up to it, we talked about what you will see. This is a placenta. She watched birth videos with me on YouTube. And kids are not squeamish, in case you were wondering. If you have small children, they are not squeamish. Whatever you say make normal to them is normal. My daughters understand what the vagina is. They understand that babies come out of a vagina. I personally do not lie to my children about anything biological. It does not benefit them.
No, it does not.
It does not. They know that men and boys have a penis. They don't necessarily know what one looks like. However, they know that it's not what they have. And they know how babies come out. They're not like, oh, is it going to bust through? No. Baby's going to come out of mommy's vagina. They may be on the playground.
And I don't know where this myth came that if your child can properly identify their anatomy, that would automatically make them sexually active or sexually curious.
It's not even about that.
One has to do with the other, because it don't got nothing to do with that.
It has nothing to do with nothing. What I hear more often is that people are embarrassed if their kids are out saying something about a vagina in public. But that's the name. And there have been child sexual abuse cases where they have been thrown out because a kid did not properly name their part. So they're saying it's probably all in their hair and they're misunderstanding. So if you have your kid running around talking about, oh, that's my cookie, I would recommend that you
let them know what it really is. If somebody can't play games and manipulate them and say, hey, let's play hand in the Jordan.
Yeah. And then they're like, oh, what? Maybe she misunderstood. Like, no.
Right.
They know what a vagina is. And as they get a little older, we will get into what is actually a vagina, what's a vulva. We'll get into that part later. Right now, you know that this
is the engine, this is the gas tank. Okay.
Exactly. So right now, for their age, that knowledge is appropriate. No, and people ask me this all the time. They have not asked for how the baby got in yet. I do have an answer for that. However, they have not asked me, so I'm not going down that road before I have to. They had I knew the biggest thing, if anything, that would quote unquote freak them out would be seeing the placenta. So I made sure they saw it before they saw it in real life. So when the placenta came out, because even my husband, a grown man, saw the placenta for the first time with the second baby. I think the first baby, he was just like kind of like in awe. He missed it. The second baby, he was like, what the fuck is So I don't really think you could sneak.
What was that?
Yes, he was really kind of like shook. So when she saw the placenta, she thought nothing of it. She had seen it before. She knows the name of it. So she cut the cord and was like, boom, that's what I did. I cut the cord. I'm a big sister. So after that golden hour, they came back into the room. Now, mind you, in this time they're washing towels, they're draining the pool. They will prepare you food, they will sweep, they will clean, they will do laundry. All of this while you're enjoying your baby.
They do laundry.
They do laundry.
$3,500.
They do laundry.
And they gonna keep an eye on your other kids and make sure they're
They do. They do laundry. The pools, yes.
I mean, me and midwife, I ain't even pregnant.
Yes. So they were doing all of that. Like I didn't even realize that the pool was gone, had been drained, folded up. They didn't box the thing back up. By the time the golden hour was over, I didn't realize it. They brought me in a plate of chicken and salad and all of that stuff. She helped me with the baby breastfeeding as well. The baby wasn't hungry when it was first born, so she didn't eat. She was kind of like, what's up, y'all? Also, when she was born, she wasn't crying, but my baby, the midwife knew that just because she's not crying doesn't mean she's in distress. She just was calm because her environment was calm. She was being birthed into the water. My midwife turned the lights down because artificial light is shocking for them. And a lot of people ask this question: if your baby's born in the water, it's not gonna drown. Okay. So, because I know there's somebody got that question somewhere. Babies are in liquid the entire time that they are in your body. So when they are birthed into water, they do not take their first breath of oxygen until they are exposed to air. So when your baby is born, they can stay underwater. There's some babies that stay under that water for 3 minutes if need be. And they're perfectly fine because they're getting the oxygen from your placenta still, as long as it's still attached. And so you slowly emerge the baby out of the water, just so you don't, keep the transition the same, because you're going from an aquatic environment to another aquatic environment. And then once they come out, they take their first breath, and then at that point, you cannot put them back under the water. So that's a really big question that I get probably the most. So yeah, it's really calm environment. Once the baby comes, after the first hour, they take the baby, and you can be a part of this. Your kids can be a part of this. Your husband can. That's when they measure the baby. They do a full physical exam on a baby in the way that I have never seen.
Talk about the exam. Talk about the vaccinations.
Yes. So with the exam, they look at so many things that OBs don't. Matter of fact, after my babies were born in the hospital, I didn't even see my OB. And the babies came out and he was gone. I didn't even know where he went, but he was gone. Okay, so the nurses took over from there. So midwives, they look at your baby's feet. They look and see how many lines on her feet, because that's when they can really get an idea of the fetal age. So in my baby's case, she had feet like a baby that was overdue. However, she was covered in vernix, which is, if you haven't had a baby, or if you're just not sure, that's the stuff that's on them when they're born. It's vernix. It's very good for their skin.
It's called what?
It's called vernix. Vernix cassova, I believe.
Well, what? As a what? What?
So, yeah, see, she was born before she may not even have it all the way.
That's the stuff that help you make
it. That's the stuff that's covered all over you. Sometimes you see the baby come out and you're like, oh my God, what is that?
I didn't even see my baby when she came out.
Yeah, it's the vernix. It's something that helps their skin while in the aquatic environment. It's very good. Sometimes in hospitals, they will wipe it off immediately. They're trying to get out of that practice, but some people prefer their baby. Some people are like, ooh, clean my baby off before you hand it to me.
Clean my baby off and inject it, please, with some aluminum.
Yes. So some people will do that. She didn't. She was like, oh, your baby's so cheesy. But they allow it to happen naturally, because it's really good for their skin, and it gives them vitamin K.
Okay?
Which leads me to the injections. Now, I don't have a stance on the vaccines. I feel like you do whatever you want to do. However, with the birth of this baby, I didn't think it was necessary to give them vaccines at 2 seconds of life. So the only one they got was vitamin K. But we did not do hepatitis. We did not do Oh, and we did not do eye ointment. So a lot of people don't know eye ointment when babies.
We're having a meltdown. Excuse you. Go to your room and have a meltdown.
Baby Mariah, leave my sister alone. So the eye ointment is probably one of the most unnecessary things they give the babies, okay? Because it's only for women who have an STD.
Okay. Which one is only for the STD? You're talking about
the eye ointment that they put on babies.
Eye ointment.
Yes, it's only if a woman hasn't like chlamydia or gonorrhea or something. They put that on just to protect the baby from, of course, getting it in their eyes and having health issues because of that. That is the sole purpose of the eye ointment. Now, if you're having a baby in the hospital, they STD check you at the beginning and they do one more time at the end. So if you pass that test, there's really no reason for you to do that. So we opted out of that at the birth meeting. That's when your midwife will ask you about your vaccination choices. So she'll run down everything. She'll explain the pros and cons of each thing, so you can make an informed decision. They do have them. So if you decide, yes, I want to do Hep B, I want to do this, I want to do that, they have them and they will administer them without judgment if that is a personal choice of yours. However, their thing is to make sure that you're fully informed and that it's on legible paper that's not bright like it is in the hospitals that you kind of don't feel like reading. They give it to you ahead of time so you can think about it and deliberate about the choices that are best for your family. So for us, again, we only chose the vitamin K and we had our reasons why we did that. Now the vernix, when it's left alone and rubbed into the skin, has its own vitamin K properties. The whole point of vitamin K properties is to assist with blood clotting for infants. And so there may be cases where there may be bruising or something, so baby may be necessary. However, that's the whole point of the vernix as well. If you rub it into the baby's skin, they'll give vitamin K that way. If you decide you want to opt out of that, now you know how another way for them to get it without an injection.
Excuse me, ma'am. Are you telling me that the doctors wipe the vitamin K off the baby and then give the baby the vitamin K?
In a sense, yes. So
they're giving them, when you first have the baby, they're giving them something in the eyes. That's
it's vitamin eye ointment that you only need if you have chlamydia or gonorrhea. It's vitamin K, which is a blood clotting agent, and then there is
eye drops,
and then Hep B. So the Hep B thing we didn't feel was necessary for a baby straight out the gate. Okay. Now I have a close friend who is a family nurse practitioner, and she says it's not even necessary. Not family, pediatric nurse practitioner. She said it's not even necessary for a baby to have it at birth because even if you choose to vaccinate, a baby only needs 3 doses, which means you don't have to do them at birth. Babies who are administered the vaccination at birth have 4 when you only need 3. So you don't even need it. You don't even need it at that time. Right. Even if you choose to go that route, you can still skip it at birth because you can do it when the baby's a little older if you choose. Right. It's just not something that has to happen because Hep B, the only way to get that is through sex and shared needles. And I don't think that anybody 12 hours old are at risk.
Has had time to do any of that. And that's showing to the integrity of what we're dealing with. And like I said, I want the women watching this to have a positive experience. So, some of the things you guys brought up here in the topic is like, we ain't gonna go there because we just gonna get mad and it's gonna make a situation. Vaccinations, what I say to everybody when they talk to me about vaccines, go to thetruthaboutvaccines.com. There's a 7-day video series there, and they talk to pediatricians. They talk to people who work for the CDC. They talk to vaccine makers. They look at the manufacturing companies. They ask every question you could think of in those 7 days. And after that period of time, I was able to make the choice that I felt most comfortable for my baby.
Yeah. And that's a good way to go because we're siblings and we both have opposite choices that we made for our own personal reasons. So definitely just make sure you're informed. Everybody's situation is different. I happen to work in a place where everybody has the heebie-jeebies. So everybody got the heebie-jeebies. We had a measles breakout and they told me you're pregnant and you have a baby too young to be vaccinated. You can work at home because you can work at home while we work on it. So just definitely inform yourself and do whatever you feel is best for your circumstances. But definitely, as my sister said, go ahead on to, the website and utilize the resources that are available to you, so that you really have the knowledge and can make an informed decision from there, because you're going to have people question your decision
Your
as
decision
you,
regardless to what you do.
yeah,
So
no matter what you do.
it needs
So
to be your decision. That's
it's
also,
your decision.
yeah, it's got to be your
um
own decision because you're going to have to defend it, and
mhm.
and that's one of the other things about being a new mom that people don't tell you is everybody's got an opinion, and this is something that you're learning. You obviously want to do the best for your child. I think the most important thing is to really be researched and make the best decisions for you and your baby, not doing what everybody else has always done or what your
Yeah.
family is most comfortable with or whatever the case it is. And women, ultimately, you're the one that's giving birth too,
Yep.
even when it comes to these husbands. So it's just like, okay, listen, I don't know what it is with you and Dr. Kevorkian where you think that's a good idea, but I'm not doing that again. So I guess you don't want any more children because I am not willing to consider another major surgery. Even if I were to go to a midwife and just it ends up where I have to get that C-section, that would be one thing. But I know where you guys are going to railroad me, the directions you're going to railroad me. And I didn't enjoy my birthing experience at all. And so many of the simple things that you were able to appreciate, and that's a bonding time with you and this baby. You're starting off your relationship, hopefully, to a good start. First thing they did, I didn't see my baby. I don't know what Burnham, whatever she had. I don't know what she had on her because I didn't see her. They immediately took her away. And they gave me some more drugs and some more drugs and some more drugs. I don't even know if I needed that stuff. I think I saw her that day. I think I saw her the next day. I honestly don't really know. You know what I mean? And it was
I think it was like later, real late at night.
real late that evening.
It was real late at then probably going to the wee mornings when we wheeled you over there to see her for the first time.
So having her,
I saw her before she did.
Having her,
I came from a whole different state.
Oh yeah, you did see her. Having her close to me is like, okay, she's in my body. I can't see her face. I was excited about beating the baby, but then it was like, well, I'd rather her be in my body than be in a whole other room down the hall and so bored.
Yeah, completely different experience. But once the baby's here, they're going to do a full body assessment. That's when you'll get the weight and all that stuff. They're going to check the baby out. They're going to check the baby's ears, the check of the development. They're going to do the hearing test just like they would anywhere else. They're going to do all of that. Okay. Now, after they make sure that you eat, they're going to do, a lot of midwives do something called a herbal bath. And so they're going to draw you a bath. They're going to steam some herbs for you on the stove. They're going to pour them into the bath. Now, this helps with perineal healing. So perineal is basically the skin that surrounds your vagina that has just stretched to push a whole person out. Okay. Your baby, they have
this is the
healing
aspects of it. You also have a pelvic floor that is that pelvic floor is an important thing, ladies. I don't think you might even notice how important the pelvic floor is.
The pelvic floor. We're gonna talk about that after we even talk about this bath for this baby.
Okay, so we're gonna talk about the bath and make sure and bring it back to the pelvic floor.
We gotta go back to the pelvic floor because it's very important. So they put you in there. It's very soothing. It's all natural. They're gonna leave you with some as well, so you could take a couple of more of those baths in the days that you're recovering as well. My baby got in with me, so the baby was in the tub with me. There's this misconception that you can't get the umbilical cord wet. You can. It's gonna dry and fall off anyway. So a lot of people don't get your baby's not really dirty, so they don't need like a bath, but people avoid putting them in any type of water.
I have heard that you're not supposed to get the newborn's umbilical cord wet, and that's crazy too.
It's bullshit. Okay, I don't know how else to say it straight like that. She was in the tub with me. The herbs also help their skin adjusting into being like no longer being in an aquatic environment, because babies peel and all of that because now they're adjusting to being land animals basically. So after you do that, they help you get dressed. They'll put on any postpartum pads or whatever you need to get you all cleaned up. Any blood, they're not squeamish. That's just what they do. So they'll help you with all of that. They'll let you know what's too much bleeding. They're going to check for that. They're going to show you how to do a fundus massage, which is basically rubbing your uterus every now and then to make sure that it's properly contracting, to make sure that it's shrinking back as it should. It's probably not my most favorite part, but it's necessary.
Is it painful? Why is it not your favorite
It's
part?
uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable because it's just a tender area, and your uterus starts shrinking back the moment that the placenta comes out, the baby comes out.
Oh.
And that's what stops the bleeding. That's what stops the hemorrhaging. So they really want you to stay on top of your bleeding and things like that. So after that, they're going to get you cozy back in the bed with your baby. They don't want you up running around doing a bunch of crap. Midwives don't want you out the bed doing nothing for 48 hours. You go pee and you get back in the bed. They want you healing. They don't care. They don't want you vacuuming your house. They don't want you trying to wash the dishes. They don't want you running up and down stairs. They
Because you
want you in the bed with your baby.
and that's important, but you're at home. In the hospital, when you stay in the hospital, somebody comes and knocks on your door every hour. It was the worst week ever. It was driving me nuts.
Every hour. And at that point, your baby's feeding off your energy so you can go to sleep. Usually your partner is super excited, so they are more than happy to take the baby for you. You can get you a good nap and make sure you had a real meal, not some goulash that came from downstairs with some fake bacon. Like you eat, you get to eat.
And a juice cup.
Yes. So you get to eat and then they leave. Now, if you have any problems, your bleeding becomes too much, anything abnormal, they will come right on back. My midwife got to my house in a record time. It's unbelievable how fast she can get to me. And then the next day, they come back. Now they're checking on your baby. They're doing the baby's weight. They're checking you. They're looking and making sure your bleeding is normal still. They're asking you what you need. If you have decided to breastfeed, they're working with you on that, making sure that your baby is latching onto your breast properly, because it wasn't until I had my baby at home that I realized that breastfeeding was hurting for me for no reason. Hospitals usually have a lactation consultant, but they don't work on the weekend, so you out of luck. And then they only work 9 to 5, and everybody using the same one person. So you don't really get the help that you need. So she showed me a proper latch, in which I learned that the baby's not really sucking on your nipple. Like your nipple's supposed to be like in this part of their throat. If it's anything shallower than that, your nipple's going to feel like death come over. Because they're not supposed to be sucking directly on your nipple like a straw. They're supposed to be at the bottom of their throat, and they're supposed to be using their gums to clench like your areola area to push the milk down for them. So midwives will help you with that. A lot of them are lactation consultants as well. Mine is an international lactation consultant, so she was able to help me with all of that. And they're not shy. They will grab the titty for you and put it in the baby mouth. They will also show you different ways to and positions and how to get the baby and how to have the baby, because babies will naturally get there on their own. So for me, my midwife will put the baby on my chest and be like, watch her. She's going to find it on her own. And she did. My baby laid on my chest. She found my nipple on her own, which is why your nipples get darker during pregnancy, so your baby can find it easily. She would put the baby on my chest. My baby would find my nipple on her own and latch on her own. And when I let her do it on her own, it was more successful than me trying to manipulate it. So anyway, you basically have them at your beck and call for 6 weeks. And they're also going to check on you and watch you closely, how you're adjusting in terms of baby blues or any risk for postpartum depression. I did not cope well after my last baby, and my midwife was on it. She was on it, and that was just because my pregnancy again was very difficult. And then I had a baby who was successfully breastfeeding this time, and I felt like I did not have my body to myself, so I struggled with adjusting, and she was watching me like a hawk.
Please talk about protecting the pelvic floor in the home birthing experience versus what happens in the hospital as far as tearing is concerned and keeping your yoni all in one yoni.
Yeah. So one of the top reasons why women tear is because hospitals have what they call coach pushing. They're like, okay, you're 10 centimeters, time to push. Your body's not made that way. Actually, in terms of biology, once you hit 10 centimeters, your body stops contracting for about 30 minutes to give you a break and to prepare you for the pushing phase. If you're in a hospital, you have an epidural, you can't feel this is happening because you can't feel anything.
And if your pregnancy is being induced, then does it stop? Do you get that 30 minutes off?
No one ever knows, because usually you can't feel nothing. So there's nobody able to report, but naturally.
So it's like underwater earthquakes.
Yeah, now your body's not under its natural process. So it could be skipping because your contractions weren't natural this entire time. So the bodily function probably is not functioning normal either. So
So what the hell is the purpose of going to Lamar's class?
Girl, I don't know, because that misses bullshit. Like, I didn't, I'm not gonna lie. I have no idea. I don't know.
Go practice breathing with some heifers that ain't even licensed to give you have no babies, deliver no babies.
I don't know. I don't know.
Well, okay.
Because even the breeding that they teach is not the breeding that a midwife teaches.
Okay. So
those classes look completely different.
So the way that the hospital is coaching women during their the way that the hospital is coaching women's breathing, which is that even the same as what they do in a Levi's class? That ain't. I don't. So we don't know why. We don't know.
A midwife would never tell you to breathe like that. A midwife is going to tell you to breathe deep and through. Basically, and not the. They're not going to tell you to do that shit.
They're going to tell you to take deep breaths.
They're going to tell you to take deep breaths. They're going to tell you to be in tune with your body. That's what they're going to tell you to do. Because it's just a different type of control.
Stop.
And they have something as well. It's called hypno babies. People get confused. They think they're like it's trying to say you're under hypnosis, and it's not. It just means that you're in a mental state to where you're focusing, like you're giving yourself positive messages while in labor, so that you stay in control. That's what hypno babies is. I have a hypno babies book. I highly recommend it. I don't know who wrote it. I can probably find out because the book is like sitting close, but on account of what I did to my back yesterday, I can't walk, so y'all gotta bear with me. That's something else I'll get to you. But yeah, that's also, it just really has a lot of coping methods, like imagining a flower opening and closing. It sounds like BS, but it will help if you need to just kind of distract yourself in zone. And I challenge you all to really watch home birth videos on YouTube, because you can see it happening. Women are in a zone because their environment is comfortable. But as we're saying about the pushing, so yes, hospitals will have you do what is coach pushing, as you see on TV. Push 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, a midwife would never, for several reasons. So again, your body has that natural phase where it stops to allow you to rest. Then when you can feel it, your body is going to push with or without your help. So there's something called a fetal ejection reflex that every woman on this planet has. If you are in a coma, and you go into labor, yes, fetal ejection reflex.
It's like an ejection button for pilots.
Yes, it's like if you on the toilet for number 2 and you don't push, but it need to come, it's gonna come out anyway. Baby's same way. Your vaginal cavity and birthing canal is a sphincter. Okay, so it's gonna do what it needs to do, whether or not you want it to. Okay, so a lot of midwives will coach you to just breathe through versus push. There will be now. Don't get me wrong.
You can only hold the baby in you for so long. It's gonna come out on its own one way.
But there's a natural too. There's also a natural urge that women have to push, and that's completely fine because now you're going with your body. Right. You just can't help it. You have to push, and that's the signal your body's giving you to do that. Okay, and that's fine. And usually, women who are going with that do not tear, because your body is naturally stretching and preparing. So for me, when I said, the crowning was the worst, I had what we like to call the ring of fire. So it was burning, but it was because my body was stretching to accommodate the baby. And apparently it's a natural, like, medication in the sense that the body has to make you slow down. That's why it burns, because after a while, if you calm down, it goes numb. So now you can't feel it. So now you're not in pain no more.
And so you will never know that your body has the ability, these numbing properties, these contraction properties, everything that the doctor is inducing you to do. You wouldn't even know that your body already did that. That's how they got the whole idea.
Well, they tell women, they make women feel like their body doesn't know how to have a baby.
Exactly.
That you don't know how to have a baby.
And when you go to the doctor's appointment, they act like your baby is not going to grow till you come see them again.
They act like the baby won't come out without their help. And like you need help to have your baby. And you don't need help. Your body knows what to do. Your body knows what to do all the way through.
So the proper breathing, letting your body work for you, along with the herbal bath and all of that, is intent on your yoni snapback, ladies.
Yes. And so, of course, midwives, of course, and doctors do recommend this. They recommend your Kegels. It's important, but not necessarily so everything snap backs, but because your pelvic floor is like a hammock, and it holds all your goodies. It keeps your urethra
Your
and
pelvic
your
floor and
anal
your snapback
cavity. It does all
is
of that,
the same thing. It's two
huh?
different things. Yeah, so your snapback and your
I mean, it's gonna snap. I got 4 kids. Obviously, some snapping, but going back to what it
okay,
was.
girl. I'm
Okay.
not talking about you
I'm
or
not.
your
I'm not saying.
profession or
I'm
your
just talking about
understanding.
women in
Nobody like
general.
that.
Hold on, no, because that's a you will be surprised. That's the number one question I get beyond anything else.
Oh,
It goes
okay.
back.
Well, I figured. I'm just, I'm trying to interview you, but I don't want all the details.
You will be all right. But women want to know, especially women who have not had children, if they have ever watched a childbirth video, they do not believe that shit goes back. So I'm letting you know today, ladies, it go back. Okay, it goes back. And if you hear instances where women don't feel like it has, it's because of the pelvic floor, not necessarily the vagina itself. So the pelvic floor has become weakened from birth because of maybe usually coach pushing or some type of trauma to the area. So again, it's a hammock. It supports your anal cavity, your urethra where you pee from, where you are. You may hear women who say, "Oh yeah, after I had my babies, I can't even jump in the bouncy house. I get a little squirty little pee, girl." Or I cough and I try to run to the elevator, squirt a little pee. It's because their pelvic floor has become weakened at some point. And there are solutions. There are pelvic floor physical therapists who only work on that area, just to keep and put it back to its strength and what it should be. So you're not a lost cause. So sometimes too in hospitals they see this in hospitals way more in natural, well, out of hospital births, and that's like uterine prolapse, and that comes from somebody tugging on a placenta, and now your uterus is trying to come out of your vagina. Okay. um Midwives will not tug on your uterus. They're not going to tug on your uterus. They're going to allow you to naturally birth out your placenta. So,
So even after you get a baby up, they still have another opportunity to go in and
and
to
screw
mess
some
up
stuff.
your
Yeah.
vagina.
hmm hmm And then they tell you, I don't know what to tell you.
Taylor says multiple pregnancies can cause that as well. Muscles can only
hmm
snap back so many times.
Um, Not necessarily. I mean, it's women who have 10 kids whose muscles have come back. And that comes from training. So a lot of them, yes, a lot of them probably undergo some physical therapy in order to keep things going. But muscle memory is also a thing. It's also a thing. It's a muscle. It's the biggest, strongest muscle in your body. So it can do that. But yes, multiple pregnancies can do that for you. But a lot of those, most multiple pregnancies are not even born vaginally either.
This is also true. New mom said sew it up.
The dad stitch. Um, and that's a really big thing. And if you look it up, it's a lot of women who are suffering because of the dad. It's like it's a joke, but it's real. They call the dad stitch when her OB be like, "I'm gonna add an extra stitch for you, dad." But now the vagina is not functioning the way it should because you overstitch someone for the daddy. And so now you have someone who can't even enjoy sex because now their vagina is not what it should be. I encourage you all to Google the dad stitch. Um,
Look, what is this? South Africa? Nobody has time for this. Okay. I'm ignorant. I'm ignorant. I don't even know if that's where they be stitching it up. But I'm just saying, don't be doing that. Leave her alone. But during proper birthing, so the dad stitch, see Eileen, what she's talking about is how some women experience tearing during the birth
yeah.
due to all of that hard pushing. Now
And sometimes, and now hold on, wait. Sometimes you're gonna tear. Sometimes women tear just because their baby
it's big.
may have come out really fast, and
Maybe
there's
that's
you
real
can you can
small.
you can tear a little bit without as well. But usually the worst ones happen because of coach pushing.
Now with the tearing situation, then they will go in and stitch you up. But obviously, you're not supposed to stitch the whole clothes, right? But they
Yeah,
will go and stitch in an extra stitch
and which is called
to
the
try
dad stitch.
to,
Make it like new for daddy.
which doesn't
Um,
make any sense because that, whatever.
it's
Okay,
bullshit.
so now the
Yeah.
other question is from new moms is do midwives sew?
Yes, absolutely. So if you tear, they will suture. If you have a tear that requires suturing, they can and will suture. Yes.
Okay, so now, did we go over? You said you have her for 6 weeks. I'm sure she doesn't keep coming back and washing your clothes. What happens in that 6 weeks time?
No, in that time, she's checking on you and your baby and you as a whole. Um, Again, your mental health. If you're how you're adjusting, if you're experiencing baby blues, why? What can we do for your environment? Are you getting out and getting enough sun? If you are experiencing postpartum depression, she will find you help. A midwife will also, if you are struggling, she will sit on the phone with you for as long as you need her to,
Mm.
and she will give you resources, which is very different from the hospital environment. Unfortunately, women come back in 6 weeks. They ask you 4 questions, like, do you feel like you're gonna harm yourself or your baby? Yes or no. And then after that, they're like, okay, you're fine. Here go your birth control. Bye.
In case anybody's wondering what happened to the angry toddler, Toy Story 3 happened in high definition. Okay. The chat room wants to know from Winging and Tracy, are midwives licensed? Go back over that a little bit. What do you have to have in order to be a midwife?
Yes, midwives are licensed. A hippie off the street cannot deliver your baby. That is not legal. Midwives are licensed by the state. They have an entire governing board. So they're certified nurse midwives who are um, nurses with advanced practice degrees, master's degrees, to be midwives. They have all the same medical abilities. They can write prescriptions. They can sew you. They can provide resuscitation to your baby. They can make sure that you do not hemorrhage. They can do all of this. The only thing they cannot do is perform surgery. So they cannot give you a C-section, which is why if you are a high risk person who may be at risk for a C-section at that point, they cannot service you. Now, there's also licensed practical midwives who are not nurses, but they go like 4 years of intense training. They have to attend like 200 births or something crazy like that before they can even go out on their own. Like, they are heavily and highly trained. They are also looked over by a governing board as well. So any old body off the street cannot be your midwife, and they too have the same capabilities as a certified nurse midwife, except that I do not believe they can. If you're a licensed practical midwife, I'm not sure if they are able to write you a prescription. They will have to have a nurse midwife that they probably work in tandem with handle that portion of it. But a large number of them are nurse midwives.
Excellent. And for the doula, what type of qualifications do they need?
Doulas, because they're not delivering babies, they cannot catch babies, they cannot do anything medical. They are emotional and physical support. They usually have training as well, certification courses. It's not nearly as intense as a midwife, again, because doulas are not medical professionals. But you want to make sure you do have someone that's certified, just because so that they understand what they can and cannot do as well. But they're really there to help you cope and to really talk you through, and they're trained to give you education, to walk you through the entire birth experience. They're there to advocate for you if you choose to birth in a hospital, or if you're in any environment where you feel that you need someone to advocate for you. They're able to do that. They do a lot of birthing coping mechanisms, like double back presses, and they just know the body to be able to help make your birthing experience easier. They also have something called postpartum uh, doulas, who will come and help you with your baby after you have it.
So I think my final question for you, and then we're going to open it up for questions in the chat again, is let's say you have a problem and something doesn't go wrong, and something goes wrong. What is the difference between rectifying that with a midwife versus the hospital in terms of complaints?
It depends. What do you mean problem?
Well, I mean, let's just say one of these things that dad is worried about goes wrong. Whereas, things go wrong in the hospital as well. In the hospital, if things go wrong, I felt like there were things that they didn't do properly. And after I left the hospital, it was like out of sight, out of mind. Nobody cared about the fact that I had this experience. Is there a place or a person that you report to? I mean, ultimately, you're dealing with someone who, you know, how do you report your midwife if it goes wrong?
They have a board, just like doctors have a board that you can report them to. They have a board, and they're probably more responsive because it's less of them, and the integrity of the field is significantly higher. So they definitely have a complaints board, and the midwife will have that information up and readily available for you to see whenever you walk into a birthing center or anything of the sort. Just like if you go to a cosmetologist, they have their license up, or if you have a complaint, they have that as well.
So you should be looking for something saying that this person is licensed.
Yes. Oh, definitely. That you do that at the, you're able to do that, and you can it's all public knowledge. If you ever want to verify someone's licensure,
I mean, and I'm just saying, because some things come with with experience. You know, you start looking for those type of things. You know, when I was younger, I wouldn't have cared if somebody was a licensed nail technician or not. If you said you knew how to do nails, but after enough jacked up experiences, I know that, you know what, something that should be simple, somebody can really mess up, and you end up with, you know, you could lose a finger fooling around. Now, this is something far more serious, so you don't, especially not knowing, people impersonate doctors and all type of weird things go on. So
they're stricter on midwives than they are doctors.
They're stricter on midwives than they are on doctors, and that's
way stricter on them. So they don't really like to have because we don't really live in a society that supports them the way that they should anymore. Even though they used to be the number one care provider for women,
the men came and locked them out. But not nan feminists that is out in the public right now talking about some of like pay gap and stuff like that. I'm not seeing them bringing up these birthing issues. I have recently, especially with that last elections, I heard a little bit of let's find out why this mortality rate is what it is. But y'all know why it is the way it is. The question is, what are you willing to do to fix it? And obviously the compromise would be to have more midwives in hospitals as well.
And there are midwives who work out of hospitals. Of course, they're not able to be as, and it's very conflicting for them because they still have to adhere to hospital policy. Right. So they're not able to be as free with their patients as they would like. However, their model is similar.
They want to join the placenta. The hospital's going to want to take it.
Yeah.
So at the chat room, New Mom wants to know, what is your opinion on birthing centers?
There's nothing wrong with that. I think it's just a matter of preference. Honestly, I chose home because I birth fast and I never really know when I'm initially in labor. And I personally think car labor is the worst. So I wouldn't want to have to travel, but there's nothing wrong with them. I've even seen the centers, they're set up like a house. So there's going to be a regular looking bed in there. They're going to have, of course, a tub. You can also use the inflatable tub, which in my opinion is more comfortable. They're going to have rocking chairs. If you want some natural lighting, they will open up the windows for you. It looks like you're in a comfortable bedroom. And they offer all the same stuff. The only difference is instead of them coming to you, you go to them. They don't rush you. They don't do any of that. They're usually strategically placed very close to hospitals in case of need for transport. And just so you know, a lot of midwifery statistics, their transfer rates are extremely low. And when they have to transfer, it's because of the request of the mother. The mom's tired. She wants some drugs. She like, forget this. I've been in labor for X amount of time. I'm good. You know, you hit me up with the cocktail. It's usually at the request of the mother, not necessarily because there's an emergency.
Okay. Awesome. And you guys, do you have any more questions for Kari? Kari, do you want to plug your blog? I know you have a family blog. I don't know if that's something you care to share.
I've actually paused it temporarily while I'm pregnant, so it's really not one for them to go to at this moment.
Okay. Well, come back if you ever want to plug and talk about the things, because on your blog you talked about parenting, some good parenting tips, and the cool part too is with you being someone who, I mean, you're not a young mom like a teenager, you know what I'm saying? You're a grown-ass woman. But at the same time, I think you're at the right part generation-wise where you can teach the people who are coming up younger than you in a way where they don't feel judged, and you kind of know what some of their concerns are going to be, and you speak their language. And a lot of young people are being I mean, I just see how prejudiced the medical field is, how judgy it is sometimes. Whether you're married, if you're not married, they might not give you as much information.
I mean, even married,
If you're married, I mean, I'm just saying any little thing can make
they'll ask
somebody
you.
biased.
They asked at the beginning of, was it my last baby? It was the last baby. Mine just is only my third baby. Apparently, 3 kids is a lot.
3 kids.
So, are you trying to do anything permanent? I'm like, I ain't even have this baby yet. Why are you trying to close up the shop for me? I was very offended by the way the question was asked. I took high offense to it. My midwife would never.
So they asked you if you wanted to tie your tubes.
Yeah, I was like, so what, do you want to do something permanent after this? And I'm like, first of all, your bedside manner is trash, sir. I've been knowing you too long for you to come at me like that. But I was offended. I was offended.
And that was after the second baby. They said that to you?
Yeah, I was pregnant with the third baby. I wasn't even halfway through.
Oh, and they're trying to tell you, like, okay, so
Time to be done.
Like this is a problem or something. Like, you know, that's another thing too. I feel like there's just so much prejudice with women in this type of thing, like how many kids, and they're judging you and how much money they think you got, and there's just so many factors that might make somebody not give you all the information, on top of the fact that you're dealing with people with limited information anyway. So if I honestly, based on this conversation, I would say, let's just say you are dead set on having the baby in the hospital, and your husband or whatever, for whatever reason, you just have to do it that way. Or like with my situation where I was considered high risk anyway and I couldn't do it.
Fine. There are great OBs.
There are great OBs.
Find them.
And maybe still have a conversation with a midwife, and maybe still go do that initial, even if you think you have your mindset up the other way. The information and the knowledge, even in terms of like how you were saying with herbal baths, and they might have some pamphlets in there that you need. I mean, this is.
Yeah. Well, we have a family member who did that. She knew she would have to have a C-section, but she saw a midwife in tandem, because if she had a problem, her midwife is the one who had the answers. So any type of discomfort, her midwife introduced her to the Rebozo method, which I also suggest that you Google and look up.
Rebozo method?
Yes, it's like an ancient method where you use like a scarf and you spread it out, and you can use it on the hips, and it really helps with some of the. I had really bad SPD, which is symphytic cis pubic dysfunction with my third baby, which is where the pubic bones separate, and it was painful as hell. Okay. My doctor, the OB, told me it was round ligament pain, despite me telling him, bruh, this is my third baby. I know what round ligament pain is, and this ain't it. My midwife was like, no, you have SPD. This is what it is. This is how long it lasts. This is how you get some relief from it. And so I was able to get a band that's specially made just for that. She introduced us to the Rebozo method, and my husband showed him how to use it, how to provide me with relief. You can Google it. There's lots of videos on it as well. I believe it's spelled Robozo. And it really just kind of help you with any type of discomfort you may feel, especially as you get toward the end and things start creaking and getting heavy. Yeah.
Leo wants to know, what is your stance on circumcision, considering you're into natural childbirth?
So the funny thing is, this is my first boy. I did not know how big of a thing circumcision was until like my last baby. People were screaming and acting a fool about it. My stance is, I don't have a penis. Okay, I don't have one of those. So I let my husband handle all things penile, because he's the one who has one. So he's the person who's going to understand both sides in terms of what that would mean for our son physically, socially, as a young man, as he starts to explore his sexuality, having to whip it out, and how he feels comfortable about it. So that is my opinion on that, is that I'm gonna let my husband make that decision. That was my choice.
And I think too, from a just psychological standpoint, that's a really healthy thing to compartmentalize and just go, you know what, husband, you know what I mean? You can have that. I don't have to.
I don't know.
I don't have to sink into that decision. You're capable. you know, to make that decision. And you're the person he's going to be coming to anyway with all matters of that
Because I don't have one.
anyhow. So,
And I see a lot of moms, they're like, no, because da 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 da. You're making a choice for him and later, and tell daddy business a little bit. Our dad didn't get his
no,
way
don't do
until
that.
years
Don't even
later.
do it. Don't even do it. Don't even
I'm
do it.
gonna leave it brief.
Don't tell it. Don't even tell it. Don't even tell it.
But it's important. It's
I
funny.
know it's important, but what we'll say is this. When you do it, don't make a decision early on. Don't, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
don't wait
You
because the
just
kid might
don't
hate
wait
you.
and then try to change your mind, okay?
Yes, they might hate you later.
Put your bad daddy getting off.
You don't even know what YouTube is.
He be on here.
There's some people too who they're like, oh, well, wait till your child is older, and the older they get, if they choose to go that route, one big issue is now you got to figure out how to keep it down while it's healing. And that's a problem. And then there's a lot of chance to mess some things up in that route if your stitches keep popping because you can't keep it down. So I just feel like it's something I would never have to experience. So that is definitely has been deferred to the Department of Daddy.
Yeah.
Just like he
I know
probably
I made it sound worse by being like no, but I just don't tell none of y'all like you know what I mean? Nothing about y'all, nothing going on. Whatever, anybody's you know what I'm saying? Like HIPAA violations and no shit, okay. It ain't even that you know what I mean? I just the internet, child. The internet. But let's see. Once you had a C-section, it's hard to go back. Vaginal birth. I'm so scared.
Oh, VBACs. Yeah, we probably should. Yeah, yeah. And that's one of those things that's touchy. I know my midwife has done a lot of successful VBACs. If a woman is comfortable with it, of course, there's things that go into that, like how long it's been since you had a baby and things. What your risk factor looks like in terms of rupture. So that one is a touchy one. But there are a lot of women who do VBACs successfully. But I think the fear is completely understandable. It's completely understandable. I just know a lot of women who have chose to do a VBAC because the more C sections happen, it limits your amount of children that you can have. So some women are like, I don't want to be capped out at 3 kids because I have C sections the whole time because OBs will start to tell women after 3 we won't do anymore, because now they're like it's a safety risk, and so a lot of women are like, okay, I need to buy myself some room, so I'm going to go the VBAC route. But it's just one of those things where there's no wrong way.
Lisa says she's known someone who was uncircumcised and really embarrassed about it. So.
Yep. And that's why I was like, I'm gonna let daddy do it because I will never know what that would feel like or the confidence you have if it is circumcised, like I don't know.
You know what? I got enough reproduction issues of my own. I don't have time to be worried about what the hell that is going on over here. I actually have never even had an opinion about it one way or another. Like,
it's a really big thing in
once
the
I
natural
found out
world.
that it came in more than one, like, oh, okay, well, that's interesting. You know what I'm saying? But like, we still have way more pressing things. Like, that's all you got? That's it?
Yeah, but it's a big deal. Like in the natural birthing community, that's a really like the people be sitting there cussing people out over circumcision, and I'm like, you are really invested in somebody else's child's genitals. That's who you will never meet.
Well, ain't nobody more violent than the tree hugger. Okay.
I'm like, goodness, y'all are so like
all over the place.
Like y'all aggressive about this. Just like, okay, I respect your different decision than mine. Let's move on. But they were like, no, you are mutilating and you are horrible. And I'm like, you don't have to do all of that. Just say I disagree. If you want to provide them some literature or something, then do that. But you don't have to attack these people.
I mean, but if it were me, I wouldn't want to do it. Because remember, I'm the same person who didn't want to pierce my daughter's ears, and I still haven't. And
girl,
So I'm just like, that would be me. And then I'm sure that
Your husband is about to be like, girl,
he's not, I'm sure he wouldn't be here for any of that.
he's not
So,
here for any of that.
and I would just have to get over it.
Yes, probably.
But we're not going to even have them problems because I'm not procreating.
Shop closed.
I mean, the shop ain't even closed. It's just, I'm away at lunch indefinitely. You know what I'm saying? I'll be back. No ETA on when I left or when I'm coming back. You know what I'm saying? It's one of them type of things. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Stranger things has happened, but
yeah,
that would be real strange. You get struck by lightning 2 times. When you have the first baby, it's just like so much, and then people are like, have another one. Like, I'm still exhausted. I'm just now getting back to myself, and to do that, to start over from scratch in 2 hours.
Don't ask me. I think the more you have, the easier it gets. So don't ask me.
Yeah, I just don't see how I could make this easier with more children.
You see, they come in here when they need me to be referee, and then they go back and finish playing.
She in her room right now watching Toy Story 3.
Yeah, and I think our children are asleep. I think Daddy put them down by now.
She's sitting right directly in front of her TV. I'm gonna have to come back a few inches. But can you believe they told us if we sat too close to the TV, it was gonna mess up our eyes and them little crappy ass TVs?
Yeah, then they made iPads. So.
What nobody finna mess up their sight on no black and white UHF, you liars.
Kids want to feel like they're a part of the fun, so that's why they look so close to the TV. They try to feel like they're in it. That's their 3D. That's their 3D experience.
Hey, y'all will get 3D. You got Netflix. You got internet, laptop, DVR. None of this. There were no laptops when I was 2. Wasn't no CDs when I was 2. So, does anybody?
By the time I was born, right?
CDs?
Mm-hmm.
No, ma'am. You older than the CDs too. I don't even know why you trying to act like I'm your much older. And you need to bring it calm down. Okay, we was both in the same generation. You trash. Ooh wee. Well, by the time I was born, like, oh really? You didn't show scale your age, right? He was not born in the 90s, okay?
Close.
Uh-huh. Oh man, like your brother be trying to claim that he was born in 1993. We've been arguing about that the whole time.
He got confused with birthday, so.
Like, you ain't even go outside and smell no 1993, okay?
No, he didn't.
All right, guys. Any more questions? Just wait to see if I got some more questions. Or Kari, is there anything else that you would like to add? And like, you think, like, what is one of the one things you wish that somebody would have told you?
It doesn't matter where you birth. Just make sure that you're comfortable and that you're getting the things that you want, and that you feel safe and supported and taken care of. Be it at a hospital, be it at a birthing center, be it at home, be it at the middle of the forest, be it in the river. As long as you feel safe and supported and heard, that's where you should have your baby.
And what is one of the one things you wish somebody would have told you about motherhood?
Don't take this mess that seriously. It's like, when I say that, it's just a lot of moms that are like bent out of shape and like really high strung, and kids are so forgiving and resilient and loving, and they will be okay. So have fun.
They're really durable too.
They are durable. Children are indeed durable. But yeah, don't stress yourself out because kids don't care about what you care about. Just don't.
This is true. They just want to be close to your mom, your mommy.
Yes, in any state that they can get you.
Yes, they can get So, I would love to have you back to talk more about parenting. Come in and teach everybody how to sleep train these babies once they get here. That would be the next shirt. I mean, you were
Oh
just
yeah, because I don't say
about it.
we don't know nothing about being up all night with babies in this house.
Something that your sister just, because I've always been up all night anyway. So, me and her be up all night and then we sleep in until noon.
But that works for you because there's no point for your baby to sleep if you up. The whole point of your baby sleeping so you can sleep. So it would have been counterproductive for her to be asleep all night and you up all night because now you want to go to sleep and she up. So yeah, that makes no sense.
Right, but for those of you who got things to do, because you are a working mom.
Yes.
You are still currently working.
Yes.
And raising 3 children.
And I like to go to sleep.
One.
And I like to go to sleep. And my 10-month-old has been asleep since 8 o'clock. And we will not see her again until 8 o'clock in the morning.
See? Don't y'all want to learn how to do that sorcery? I don't know that. It's some things that I know. That ain't one of them. You know what I'm saying?
By 3 months, everybody is sleeping at least 8 to 8 or 7:30 to 7:30.
I'm trying to tell y'all.
And in their own room because I have a personal boundary. My kids can't sleep with me.
My
Everybody's different with it. There's no wrong way. I personally prefer that. My bedroom is for my marriage, so my kids can't sleep in here.
My sister is the baby whisperer. Okay, so the next show when we have you back, hopefully your blog will be back up by then. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
In the meantime, those literatures that you were telling me about on statistics of hospitals and
yes, I will send all of that.
Email those to me. And then what I'm going to do, if you ladies are interested in those articles and that information, email me directly. Reference this video title or something having to do with, hey, send me the literature, because I don't really have a good place to put it right now for you.
Hey, baby, you got
and I'll send it to you.
You have Auntie's signature hairstyle.
She all up in the IKEA catalog.
Oh, she's shopping.
She should be. Okay.
You shopping, baby?
Yo, lipstick is all over.
Now the thing about IKEA is, they come in a million pieces, boo.
So that's okay because Daddy has to put it together, not me.
Mommy gonna end up putting it together. Who has that kind of patience?
Because you gotta really read the instructions, and sometimes they don't
have words.
Oh man. Oh yeah, the YouTube community. Okay, I can't do that. I can't put it on the YouTube community share. Well, thank you. So many people in the chat said that they have shared this video, so that is awesome. And I really appreciate you guys helping us to share the word, because that's really the whole point of this whole conversation. We just these are the things that we didn't know. I mean, I even learned more. We've been having this conversation, and even still, I'm just blown away by your birthing experience, and just even having that option. That's awesome. You know what I'm saying?
Do you want to come when the baby is born so you can see firsthand?
Well, let me ask my husband. Give a travel.
Baby's so unpredictable. You don't even know the little boy.
Well, not this, just that. Honestly, where did we go? We went to Los Angeles, and by the time I got through with TSA checking me and everything, my last name was Osama or something like that. After they got through, I felt so. I was just I
can't see you anymore.
Again.
I can't see you.
Well, you can't see me?
Nope. It just has your picture and sound waves for when you speak.
Turn the camera off. Turn the camera on.
There you go.
All right. Yeah, so thank you guys though for sharing. I really appreciate it. I thank all of you who have been hanging out with us. Y'all watched the whole broadcast, and we appreciate that. Kari, thank you very much for coming on. You're very lovely. You provided us so much insight. You didn't have to do it. We know you were very busy, and so we appreciate that as well. Hi, Mara. How are you? So yeah, I will share it in the YouTube community, and I will see you guys very soon. All right. It's a refreshing video. All right. They said thank you.
Yay.
Yay.
Okay. That can help.
Yes, helping and everything. I wish I had some sound effects.
And then if anyone has more questions after, you just get them to me, and then I'll answer them, and you can just make sure they're available.
Okay, excellent. If you have more questions for Kari, she's willing to answer them for you. So email me. All right. And then I will THEKIKIGREEN@gmail.com. Email me your questions and I will have Kari. We'll have an ask Kari. Put ask Kari in the title. Ask Kari. And Kari, they're gonna email me now. They're going to email me. They're there right now.
Okay.
So just put it in the title. Ask Kari.
And we'll take care of it.
We will take care of it.
And anything I don't have an answer for, I will find an answer or refer you to a place where you can explore the answer as well.
Isn't my sister awesome? I call her my little big sister. She's so wise. But I mean, you know, we grown now. I mean, I'm like 29, so you like, what? 22, 20 something. It doesn't matter. The point is that we are very young women, and this information, you know, just, I don't know, we were born with it. Okay, so we appreciate it. Appreciate you guys watching. Mara said she's gonna watch from the beginning. Yes, please do, and share with the women in your life. We got to pass this information around because we need women to know that there are other options other than
yes. Actually, that will be my thing to say that I wish I knew was to explore all of your options. There are a lot of options, include outside of seeing an OB or a midwife. You can see a family doctor throughout your pregnancy, which is actually safer as well. And then you go and have your baby with an OB, but for your prenatal care, you can go to a family physician. You don't have to go to an OBGYN during your pregnancy. So there's a lot of options.
And the OBGYNs that I saw throughout my visit, that I went really trucking through the desert barefoot to go see in 115-degree weather. Okay? 2 different people, mind you. Neither one of them showed up to the actual birthing. And I was sliced open by the resident old guy that comes with the building, who granted had a lot of experience, and I was a hospitalist because he hooked me up. Huh?
Yeah, he's a hospitalist.
And I'm glad it was him. But I'm still saying, then what was the point of me going up here with y'all? And I could have went to the family doctor and did it like that anyway, instead of why am I bonding with you? But you're only able to deliver my baby if it happens on your schedule and you're not busy with anything else.
Oh, that's the other thing we probably should have covered. Yeah, midwife. Your midwife is going to be available.
Your midwife
plan it out that way. They only take so many births a month, so she'll be there.
They take only so many births a month, and they will be there.
And honestly, I actually asked her the other day. I was like, what are the odds? Like, have you ever had a birth overlap? She said, honestly, it's just never happened. She said we have backup plans in the event, but they're like, just never happened because babies, they happen so spontaneously. She's like, I've had back to back. She said, I've done marathon births where one baby was born. I left that birth an hour later, a new mom saying she in labor, and so I have to go to that one. But she said, I've never had them like we in labor together right now. She's like, she hasn't had that.
Scratch me.
Hey, don't expose the chi-chis, mama.
Not this. It's not that kind of video.
It's not that kind of video. Real confusing for the people.
Right. However, speaking of soliciting yourself, if you would like to support this broadcast, you do have the option of donating directly to the PayPal channel. Okay, so it will be paypal.me/LUVKIKIGREEN. All right, and that's a great note to end on. All right, so I would like to thank everybody for listening and tuning in. All right, see you next time. Bye-bye.
And I'll call you.
Okay, girl. Bye, girl.
All right, bye.
Love you. Thank you.